What's going on, Papa fam? Welcome to day 3 of the 5-day Airbnb React.JS Next.js challenge. Let's get this place going crazy today. We went ahead and built Airbnb, the front page yesterday, and today we're going to build search and calendar functionality. Go ahead and comment right now where you're watching from. I'm going to go ahead and give everyone just a second to get their energy up. I got my water right here. We're going to go ahead and have so much fun today. Enjoy it. Take your time. Replay the video. Twitch, YouTube, Facebook. Make sure you're part of this. Day 3 of the Airbnb challenge, guys. Welcome. Let's crush it, Papa Fam. Let's do it. Welcome to day 3 of the challenge. Hey, we got Germany, India, we got USA, we got Canada, Bulgaria, Mexico, Tanzania. Hey, this is sick. Milton Keynes. Nice. Sri Lanka, Norway, Mexico, Malaysia. That's what I'm talking about, guys. It's absolutely crush this. I'm going to give you a demo of what we're going to actually build today. All right. So this is what we actually went ahead and built yesterday. We had a sick front end. This thing looked amazing. You guys crushed it on your homework. We went ahead and built the entire front end, guys. This was so much fun. And honestly, you guys pulled through, and I couldn't believe the submissions. We're going to go through them in just a second, right? But what we're going to build today is the ability to actually go ahead and type in a search bar, drop down a date picker. All color scheme is going to match Airbnb, and you've even got this nice little tweaking punchline. Look how sick that is, guys. We're going to go ahead and be able to select some dates, number of guests, click search. Then we're going to trigger a server-side render. Here, you see the little nice loading indicator, and then boom, we're going to get real search results. It says stays in London because I typed in London. All the information that I just entered comes up on the screen. All this information is being pulled from an API. We have the information over here. Oh, it's going to be so much fun, guys. It's going to be so much fun. We're going to have this at the end of today's build. If you're excited about that, smash the thumbs up button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. And yeah, this is going to be sick. This is going to be fully responsive. And yeah, it's going to be a hell of a learning curve. So buckle up. You're going to learn all about server-side rendering in today's build, guys. Let's crack on with today 3. Are you excited? Today 3. Are you excited for the challenge? Let's go ahead and get started, guys. Type let's start day 3 in the comments right now, and we can go ahead and kick it. All right. I love seeing how many people are actually, tuning in again. I'm starting to recognize people that are actually coming back to the challenge. And guys, oh man, it's just, I don't know how I come up with the energy, but it's just you guys. You guys inject me with life every time I come on these live streams. And it's just unstoppable power from the Papa fam. Tino, what's up, man? Ben Carter, Satvinder, what's up, guys? Good to see you. Darwin, good to see everyone in the house today. If you haven't already, reserve your spot. Do it right now. links.papareact.com/challenge. If you're not already registered for the challenge, you're going to need to in order to get, part of this prize pool. And guys, crucial, we're approaching somewhat near the end now. Day 5, we're going to have an absolute huge training. So I want you guys to be there. Get a free ebook worth £50. I'm going to give you guys a complete React training, teach you how to take all the skills that we've got done here and go ahead and land your first job. I'm also going to open the doors to our exclusive community, Zero to Full Stack Hero. It's going to be sick. First link in the description, register your place and let me know if you have already. Let's go on, guys. Join the official Papa Fam Discord server if you haven't already. I'm going to go through all the ground rules quickly. And remember, this is going to go ahead and have timestamps on it. So afterwards, if you're watching it back, you can skip all this part and crack on with the build. But remember, Discord server, if you want some help, its link is in the description. The official Papa Fam group. This has been sick and amazing for so many of you. Guys, honestly, I can't believe how much you support each other. We actually have 4.2k members now, not 3.8. So that's the 4th link in the description. Make sure you're a part of the Facebook group, not just for the challenge, because it's a sick place to hang out. Right? Save, share and use Papa Challenge, hashtag Papa Challenge. I can see you guys posting. And remember, as always, guys, pull out your phone, snap this on Instagram, tag me, and I will go ahead and repost you. And if I do, you get bonus points. Tino, a couple of you other guys are killing it with those. And even Adam actually had the Papa top, which I found that so sick. Day 5, again, sign up. First link in the description. The Ultimate Developer Workshop. It's going to be sick. And honestly, I've never shown this book to the world. This book it took ages. That's 60 pages of JavaScript cheat sheet stuff. So you guys want that, I'm going to make sure you get it, right? You got to turn up on the final day, and that's it. Simple as that. You get it for free. We're learning all of this today. You know, we're going to go ahead and recap on our React skills. Next.js, we're going to be touching on server-side rendering today. So it's going to be sick. We've got Tailwind CSS because this is going to be responsive as always. And then we're going to update our deployed URL. So we're going to actually push the app again to Versal. So that way you can submit day 3 homework, just like you guys have been killing it already. And then we can go ahead and get you those bonus points. Now, remember, if you're ready to go ahead and start this thing, let's type, let's go. Time to focus, guys. Turn your phones off. Put them on do not disturb and get ready to go ahead and actually dial in. We're going to get into a flow state together and we're going to crush it today. Some quick reminders because this is a challenge. All right, thank you, Ulysses. I see you, dude. Shops Rise. What's up, guys? Thank you for tuning in. Tino says, looking forward to that ebook. Go Dust. Exactly, dude. It's awesome. This is today's build. If you haven't already, if you tuned in a little bit late, this is what we're going to be building today. It's going to be a hell of a lot of fun. Honestly, it's going to be a real learning curve for a lot of you. You're going to learn all about state in React. So again, I broke it down for beginners, and that's exactly what I'm going to do today. We have hundreds of people watching, and I always notice this, as the challenge goes on, only the real ones who want to change their life continue on throughout the challenge. So honestly, if you guys are tuning in today, props to you. Keep it up, guys. Day 3 agenda. We're going to review all the homework submissions. Then we're going to build the search and calendar date picker and the results page. Then we're going to push our code, deploy it, so that way you guys can crack on with your homework. You can code along with me today, or you can watch afterwards. It's all good. Do it at your own pace. Point system. This is a competition. This is a challenge. This is why we push ourselves, right? We want to win something. And the end of it, 1 point for sending a message on any social media platform, 2 points for tagging me on any social media platform. You guys have been crushing it with that. I honestly love it. If you've been reposted, shout yourself out right now and give yourself, some fame time right now. 3 points if you help someone with their homework. Now I see loads of you saying, Sonny, I helped someone out, and I actually saw an awesome one where somebody helped someone out. I can't remember the name. I think it was Christensen, and someone actually shouted him out saying, make sure you give him the points. And that's the kind of positivity that we want to see, guys. It's all about helping each other. Keep on doing it. 4 points if you refer someone, and remember, if you win, they win the prize as well. So it's going to be sick. 5 points for every homework submission. So it's a no-brainer. Get your homework done, and you're going to win this competition, or you have a better chance of winning it. Okay. Reminder of what you can win: diamond mentorship, platinum winners, and 50% off coupons. It's a hell of a lot of prizes. £10,000 prize pool. It's going to be so much sick. It's going to be so much fun, right? And again, this is a beginner challenge. So if you're tuning in, do not worry. Remember, if you haven't done yesterday's homework or any of that stuff, just follow on today, enjoy the challenge, and then go ahead and actually catch up afterwards. Don't worry, it's for beginners. I'm going to break it down for you guys. You can take your time with it and enjoy this thing. And remember, submit your homework if you want to be eligible for the prizes on day 5. Okay, this is where you can find it on the Facebook group or the link in the description. All of it is down there. We pretty much go ahead and help you out. Piyush says, where can I ask for help in this challenge? If you want to ask for help, again, Discord, Facebook, literally send a screenshot saying, I'm stuck on that. Give enough information, right? I always see people saying, I'm stuck. You need to give enough information so that way people can actually help you out. And then that's going to be your best chance at getting some support. Yesterday's homework, day 2, the complete front-end build. You had to build a completely responsive, mobile-friendly front end of the Airbnb homepage. Then you have to push it and deploy it. Now we're going to go ahead and feature a couple of builds. We crushed it, guys. Over 250. That's literally, we had 350 for day 1, 250 for day 2 is incredible. I couldn't believe, I was saying to Jay, I was like, whoa, everyone's pulling through on the homework. You guys are smashing it, guys. Keep it up. And I blocked out some of the email addresses. I don't want you guys to get spammed like I do. But yeah, amazing stuff. These guys looked exactly like mine, and you even implemented additional features, which we're going to highlight right now. Okay, so let's check out some of the worthy mentions, right? Get ready for this. Drum roll, get ready for this. This is going to be big. If you do find yourself featured, 10 bonus points, okay? We're going to go ahead and crush this one. Check it out. Marco, I can't pronounce the surname, sorry, but I'm going to say Zelatovic. Maybe that was perfect. I don't know. But Malcolm did. That was an awesome build. Oh, look at that. He actually made his own little, custom Airbnb title. Fernando Segra. Again, apologize if I don't pronounce it right. Well done, guys. Absolutely crushing it. And again, if you haven't already subscribe to the channel. Over 50% watch and don't subscribe. I don't care. I really don't. All right. we have Alexander Georgiev, we have Osada Vidath, and I love this one. This one is like, you know, it's up to date. He's actually probably gone to the local, you know, the actual Airbnb site and taken inspiration from that. But look how clean that design is. Well done, dude. Ben Carter, he actually had a login, a sign-in system, right, which was sick. He actually implemented Next.js, which I didn't even teach, but you must have watched my old build, so well done for that. And remember, if you're not actually featured or mentioned, doesn't mean I haven't seen you. Do not get offended. We try our best. There's hundreds of people. We do try our best. We go through everyone. Don't worry, I've seen you, okay? Frederick Peter, amazing stuff, dude. Absolutely crushed it. Camilo and Monique, absolutely crushing it once again. You girls are coming back for day 3. Make sure you go ahead and crush it today as well. Absolutely killing it, guys. And these are some of the additional worthy mentions I'm actually going to demo, okay? Dash Santosh. Guys, if you see Dash, he's always showing up in these challenges. He always crushes. Look how sick this build is. All right, we have a few hundred people already tuning in. Smash the like button if you're enjoying this right now. Check this out. Look at that. Oh my God. That is so sick. All right, how he's done that. Look how nice that is. He's even added an additional card. He's added even more additional fields. Look at that. So beautiful how he's done this. I love that. I can't get over the top. Look how beautiful that is. Oh, it's just seamless experience, right? Really beautiful stuff. Well done, Dash. Extra 10 points. Tino, I couldn't go on without mentioning Tino. If you guys have heard about Tino, he keeps popping up for good reason. Check this out, right? So not only did he go ahead and build the rest, and what I do love about Tino's build, he's done something which is very modern, right? Which you may not we may not have realized straight away, but look how he's got a subtle difference from the background. Slight shadow. That is modern design at its finest, guys. Look how crisp, look how clean that is. Absolutely crushed it. And my favorite part, one, he did the actual header, which I think is so sick. But guys, look at this. If I grab that, what the hell? Look how amazing that is. And to top it off, the animation. Oh, dude, everyone smash the thumbs up button for Tino right now. Absolutely killed it. Grab or scroll to fix bug. This is sick. Take me to Nirvana. That is awesome, man. I love your creativity. And also you've got a parallax effect in the background. I saw that. That is awesome. Your design skills are on point, dude. Keep going with how you're doing it. Honestly, overpowered. Killed it. Dean Barber, once again, getting another mention. Absolutely killed it. Here we've got a few, animations. So he's gone ahead and, chucked in some Tailwind CSS animations. And I thought this was pretty clean. I think there's a little bit of overkill with the animations here. I would say try and keep animations down to a minimum, but I think he's trying to show me that, something I can do the animations. So you know what? Props to you for actually implementing them. Well done, dude. So this is looking really nice right now. Well done for that. And you actually went ahead and added that little flashing indicator there. I would say the only thing I would mention with this one, chill a little bit with the, the flashing. You want to keep it subtle or when the user hovers over it. But overall, amazing project, dude. Well done. Okay. And finally, Catherine Sivanes. And I think this was the dude who actually helped someone out. So well done. Shout yourself out right now if you see yourself. And look at this, guys. Awesome stuff. We've got the sticky top header. Oh, look at that. Look at the way that flew in right there. I'm going to do that one more time. Get ready for this. We got the Olympic background. Oh, nice. Look at that. Nice. Clean, dude. And look how they just fly in. Oh my goodness. That is so slick. Right? Really love this. If I had to choose a preference out of these few builds that I have right here, I would have to say, I'm not going to lie, I think it would be Tino. Tino, this one had me, man. This is like I would honestly pay good money for that. I would pay good money for that. I think you've absolutely nailed the design. This by far is my favorite that I've seen so far in terms of design. I think you nailed it. I think there's subtle effects. I think you've absolutely crushed modern design here. And if you carry on with this, I don't know where the text went for this one. Oh, okay. All right, we're there. It's just there. It's just oh my God, you can grab this. I didn't even know you could grab that. But there you go. I guess you can grab the large cards as well. That is awesome. So I tried grabbing that as well. But nice stuff, dude. Really awesome stuff. Pedro says, are the animations also made with Tailwind? So these animations are made with, I think he's using Framer Motion for this. So if you guys are interested in doing it, Framer Motion is the place to go. But otherwise, the little kind of flashing animations and the little, jumping up and down, that was done with Tailwind. Yes. All right. Awesome stuff, guys. Well done for the mentions. And again, if I didn't mention you, do not freak out. We do see you. Doesn't mean we're not gonna, you know, give a few bonus points here and there. I see loads of you. Aman Janwani. I see loads of you guys absolutely crushing it. Do not worry. All right, I see everyone. So many impressive front ends. Go ahead and comment who your favorite was right now. I want to see what the crowd favorite was out of all of those ones, right? We had, these were the names: Dash, Tino, Dean, and Catherine. And we also had a few others before. Go ahead and shout them out. Which one's your favorite out of those mentions? Right? People have asked for help and the community came in clutch. Remember, helping everyone out gives you the bonus points. Honestly, if I see you guys actually crushing it with the help, it gives you actually a very high chance of helping out. And this is because the Papa Fam was created to eliminate that kind of, you know, feeling of being alone when you're developing. So go ahead and keep on helping. Oh, wow. Look at that. Tino, you see yourself, dude. Aaron San says Dash and Tino. Prashun says Tino crushed it. Khalid said they just crushed it, all of them. This is awesome, guys. Well done. Tino, have your moment of fame, dude. Absolutely killed it. And you deserve it, rightfully. Let's have a look at some of the examples of help. So we had a few things over here. So you can see Anuj was helping out over here. Rosen jumped in again. I love Rosen's energy, by the way. Catherine, this was the one, guys. He answered it and it helped me out a lot. Just want to say that if Sunny or Jay are seeing this, please give this man +4 points. Guys, come on. He doesn't even want to win himself. He actually had the modesty to shout out at someone else to give them the points because Catherine helped him out. So if Catherine, if you're watching this, firstly, sorry if I pronounced your name wrong, but secondly, absolutely awesome support and you should be proud of yourself, dude. He says, you're welcome, bro. Amazing stuff. And then we have Ben Carter jumping in, teaching all about the parentheses return over the curly brace return. That's clutch because a lot of people were going to get stuck on that. I knew that was coming actually, but you know, thank you so much for jumping in to help him out. Let's build the calendar and such. Are you guys ready for day 3 of the 5-day Airbnb challenge? If you are, and you want to learn all about Next.js, server-side rendering, all that good stuff, and some calendar functionality, then make sure you smash the thumbs up button, subscribe, because we're going to actually be extending this even further tomorrow and adding Mapbox functionality. So if you want to be a part of that, hit the little bell notification so that way you don't go ahead and, you know, lose your spot or miss what's going on. We're going to be live at the same time. But remember, reserve your place for day 5. Day 5 is where the entire training kicks off. We're going to go live. We're going to go kill it right now. We are going to carry on, guys, from where we left off yesterday. So yesterday we had the following build. So, you know, we would have the front end over here. And if I typed in, you see nothing happened. This is where we left off yesterday. So we're going to go ahead and extend. So if you are stuck at all today, or, you know, you're behind, then watch today, consume the information, learn something new. You know, how does server-side rendering work? How do we get some kind of calendar date picker, you know, put inside of our app, and then go ahead and do day 2, day 3, day 4, etc. and do, you know, catch up. Don't worry, it's all a learning curve for you. We're going to go ahead and crush it, guys. Let's get the code up from yesterday. Here we had our code. So this is what I want you to do, pretty much resume from yesterday's build. And again, if you are not, you know, if you're not up to scratch or here, do not worry. Toughware says, too late for me, I missed day 1 and 2. Don't worry, dude. Watch and enjoy. Do not worry. You can still submit all the homework and actually get points and everything like that. So you can still have a chance to help a few other people out, get bonus points, and still have a chance of winning. Okay? So let's go ahead and dial in. I'm going to go ahead. Oh, Mothia Rahman says, I learned my dream job, Google engineer, and you helped me so much. I still watch your videos today. Dude, if you can send me a DM showing proof that you landed a job at Google, man, I'm going to jump on a Zoom call with you straight after this. So that's absolutely crushing it. And I'm going to go ahead and actually change the vibe up of the music. And let's go ahead and get into our flow state. Quick little water break before we get started. And again, if you're enjoying this stuff, smash the thumbs up button. We smashed it with 1,000 likes yesterday. And I don't plan on slowing down anytime soon. We're going to keep on going, guys. Let's kill this Papa Fam. And also, if you haven't already seen, there's a nice little join button on YouTube now where you can become a special Papa Fam member and get a nice little, you know, colored highlight. And I'll actually prioritize your comments because they actually come massive on my screen. So I know if you comment, I can engage with you a bit more, and it supports the channel. So feel free to do so. Let's continue. Art 3 mixes. Sunny, I didn't submit my homework, but can I do it later? Yes, you can, dude. Do not worry. If you want a chance at winning the prizes, make sure it's before day 5, and I got you, dude. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and quickly sort out our coding environment. Boom. Go ahead and make this a bit neater. Nice. Okay. So at this point, we just crushed over 200 likes. Let's go ahead and get to 300. Let's get that number up, guys. Okay. So first step, we have this as our starting point. Now, where the hell do we actually even begin with this, I guess, right? Well, when we type in over here, I want that nice calendar functionality. So let's have our actual application up on the side, the actual finished application. So that way we can have a constant comparison to it. So as soon as I type in here, a few things are happening. First thing, I'm typing in and then a calendar pops up. Right? Now, this is no ordinary calendar. This is a pretty jacked up calendar. We have loads of different nice little functionality traits. And even here you can say, look, 2 days, 12 days up to today, or, 2 days starting today. And you can change all of these things up. Oh, sorry, you know what I'm saying. You get the point, right? And you can actually go ahead and modify the dates and all sorts of stuff. And you can change the number of guests. And we've got a nice little, switching kind of, incremental counter here as well. So loads of things are happening here. You got a nice little selection over here, really modern looking design. Then we have two buttons, a cancel, which actually goes ahead and eradicates your search, or you can go ahead and actually go ahead and click search. And we've got some modern design here. So I want to go ahead and implement this right now. First thing I want to do is go over to the component that is responsible for this. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and jump over to the header component. Okay. Because this is where the magic is actually happening. So we have the header component over here. Now, Command J, hide the terminal, give yourself as much space as you're going to need to work on this. And remember, take your time, enjoy this process. It's all about enjoying yourself. Now, the first step to going ahead and actually getting some functionality like this is we need to know when the user actually types in the field. Can you see when I type in, a calendar shows up? When I don't type in, nothing shows up. So what we're going to use here is something called state. Now, state inside of React is simply basically, think of it as a short-term memory for our components. Now, what you can do with state is you can go ahead and actually map the text from the input field. So as the user goes ahead and types in a value, we can keep track of that value. Now, why did I say short term? Because if you refresh the page, that disappears. Now, you can add something called persistence. That way, when you refresh, it goes ahead and keeps it. But in a lot of cases, for example, in a search bar, you don't really care so much about persisting the value. Hence why React state by default is non-persistent, so it will disappear after a refresh. So let's go ahead and do a live demonstration of this. As I mentioned before, when we type in, it will go ahead and keep track of the value. Now that allows us to then go ahead and do the things that we need to do, like show a calendar, okay? And again, Dev Mentor Live, what's up? We have a member in the house. He goes, yesterday was pretty epic. A great way to demonstrate how powerful and deceptively easy Tailwind CSS is. Yes. And you guys are going to find out today as well that you're going to, you're just going to fall in love with Tailwind CSS even more, guys. So I'm going to go over to the start your search input field, okay? And the first thing that I actually want to do is I want to map this value to a piece of state. Now, how do I make, this so-called state? So what the heck is state? Remember, I said it's a short-term memory store, but what we can essentially do is create different variables inside of that state. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and create a piece of variable or sort of, a little variable called search input. And that's going to be responsible for holding on to that value that the user types in. So at this point, what we're going to do in order to do that, so when you're learning, JavaScript by default, you'd pretty much go ahead and do something like this. You'd say search input, and then, you'd give this a default value of empty, right? So it'll be an empty string. But inside of React, you're going to have to do something slightly different. Okay, so inside of React, we actually have to do a special sort of, a syntax or a special way of writing this variable. And this is basically responsible for when we go ahead and type in, we have to tell React that that value just changed. So that way it can refresh and show the thing on the screen in the way that we expect it to. So the way that we do that is we go ahead and say const. And this is going to be called something called array destructuring, but we won't go into it too far. All you need to know to get this working is you go ahead, pop in some square brackets, and we're going to give the name of the variable as the first argument. So we say search input. The second thing that we have is something called a setter function. So what this is, if I ever want to change that special piece of, a special variable in our state, for example, search input in this case, I don't just go ahead and say search input equals some text. Can't do that because React won't know that I've updated it. So instead we have to go through a special function which allows us to modify the value. When we go through that function, we're basically telling React, you need to now re-render that field or wherever the hell that thing is used. So that's how it all works. And that's where the magic works. The syntax or the standard for doing this is we say set search input. So whatever your variable name is, you just say set. That's the kind of standard for it, okay? Seema says, sick, today's gonna be killing it. Excited for map and calendar part. Oh, that's Mohib as well. What's up, guys? Welcome. This is killing it, guys. We're almost at 300 likes. Let's keep going. We're gonna go ahead and say equals useState. Okay, so this is how you get it working. You say, and you see it says auto import from React. So I'm going to go ahead and pop that in. If you don't get the auto import, that's how you pull it in from React. So you go ahead and say use state, and this will actually go ahead and create that variable for us. And then we pass in an argument because this is a function. So the way this works is you give the initial value of the search input. So the search input by default is actually going to be a blank value, I guess, right? And if you're wondering, no, Sonny, it's start your search. No, that's actually the placeholder. So that's actually going to be when we have an empty value. So in this case, we put in an empty array, empty string. So we've done it. We've set up this piece of state, okay? And Tio, what's up, dude? Good to see you here. Holik says, I only know Redux. So you're going to find this one easy if you know Redux. But if you don't, then do not worry. Okay, let's check this out. We've got search input. We've got our modifier function. And we're ready to rock and roll. So let's go ahead and move. We've got our search input here. Let's go find the input. We have the input. So how do we connect this new piece of state to the input that we had? There's a few ways of doing it. You can use a reference, you can do all this other stuff. Today, we're just going to do a simple map, which basically imagine we're drawing a line from the input field to that variable. And we're just connecting the two things. Okay. So the first thing I want to do, I'm going to say the value of the input field is going to be the value that we have inside of our search input. So we just literally do a direct connection, right? Okay, seems pretty good. Now, if I save this and I go ahead and try and type, so I'm hitting the keyboard as hard as I can right now, nothing's happening. This is because we automatically went ahead and set it to a blank string, and then we don't actually tell React that when you change the value, you should update that string. So React is saying, no, you are gonna absolutely get stuck on that, that value here. So if I go ahead and change this to hello, it's going to be absolutely stuck to hello, no matter what I type. Okay, that's not ideal. So what we need to do, we keep it as a blank string. We go down to our input, and here we say on change. Okay, and we say equals, and we can do something nice here called an arrow function. Okay, now we don't need these little curly braces because we're only going to write one thing, but this arrow function gives us something called an event, right? And it's E for short. And what the event does is it actually goes ahead and every time the user types in that input field, think of the computer as, or the browser as it fires off this event saying, it has, and that event has loads of information. For example, what the user just typed in. So we can use that information to go ahead and update that search input variable. So in this case, we're going to say set search input. Remember, if I want to update it, I have to use that special function. So set search input, I pass in the new value. Now in this case, what is the value? How do I get the value? Remember I said it all comes through this event. So in this case, we can say e.target.value. And that special magic keyword right here, target.value, accesses this field and says whatever the user just typed in, get that value and then map it to the search input. Okay, so let's go ahead and save it. So we did these two little lines of code here. And now if you type in, nice, it works. And what we're doing here right now is when we type in that input field, it's actually updating the state in our component. And again, remember, if I refresh, it defaults back to, you guessed it, blank. Okay. So at this point, this is looking pretty nice. It's looking pretty good. So, and oh, nice. Yeah, Motia Rahman says, I told Sunny I work as Google and you helped me land my dream job. Yeah, dude, if you can show me, honestly, reach out to jay@papareact.team@gmail.com and let him know and we'll get you on an interview or a podcast. That'd be awesome. Okay. So at this point, what we're going to do is we're going to use that value. Now, if you don't believe me and you're like, no, Sonny, I don't believe that that's actually getting stored inside of a variable and you're just saying it, we're going to go ahead and inspect the element. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and inspect it right here. And if you're on Safari, you're going to have to go ahead and enable the developer tools, which are in system preferences over here or in preferences, or in Chrome, you just have the, inspect element. I'm using Safari purely because when I'm live, Chrome takes up too much RAM. Okay. I'm going to be real with you and it slows things down. But what I can do here is I can simply say, okay, console.log the search input, because I just want to see what's going on with that variable. Okay, so in the beginning, I can see it's blank, right? So if I go ahead and start typing like London, and can you see how every single time I'm typing, it goes ahead and it updates the value. right? So look, London, right? So now we know that that's actually getting mapped to that variable. So this is a kind of a surefire way of checking if you've actually connected the two things together. Okay, pretty cool, right? So the next step is let's get that calendar popped in. So now we have access to this variable, so we can go ahead and do this. Hello, Sunny. Today you are so handsome. Thank you so much, Theo. The React hook, super clean. Thank you so much, dude. Okay, so now what we can do is we need to go ahead and implement this beautiful calendar, okay? Now, don't get confused. The calendar goes up to this point, and then this is our own code, number of guests, and here. And again, we're gonna keep a piece of state to keep track of the number that we go ahead and change here. So we're gonna use that same approach to go ahead and do that, and then we've just got 2 buttons over here, okay? So we're gonna go ahead and implement all of that nice stuff right now, okay? So how do we go ahead and do it? So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna go ahead and say, if we have the search input, so where do I do this? We go down to where we have the right container. I'm actually going to do it underneath this right container. So the way that we can check this is we can go ahead and simply type in h1 and I can say hello world, right? And because we have a column of 3, it's going to go ahead and go into the next line. So at this point, we had a column setup of 3. So it was 1, 2, 3, and then the next div naturally goes onto the first column on the second row, okay? So at this point, we can go ahead and say, we can change this up, this part to look something like this. And also notice how we can actually make this conditional. So I'm going to now say, okay, only say hello world if the search input has a value. Okay. So the way we do this is we say, if the search input has a value, by doing this, this basically means if it's not blank, then, so if it has a value, if it's truthy, this is called, then render out this. So at this point, we can check it. We can go ahead and say, look, if I type in, okay, perfect, right? When it's empty, there's no, there's no hello world. But when I type in, there is a value, hello world. Awesome. This looks really nice, right? And this is exactly what we need to get started. So what I'm now going to do is I'm going to switch this hello world up to actually have something useful in it. Instead, I'm going to go ahead and say that we should have a div here. Now this div is going to have something called a date range picker inside of it, right? Now date range picker is something that we're going to have to install. So the one that I'm going to use is something called React Date Range, right? So React Date Range is an awesome library. I'm going to show you right now. We're going to go ahead and type in React Date Range, and you can see, look, if we go to the GitHub page, it's an awesome, well-maintained library. You can tell by it because it's got a nice number of stars over here as well. Let's head over down here, and you can see an example of the actual calendar in action. Now you can see you get loads of different customizable parts to this calendar, and here you can actually see that you can have it in multiple different ways, different colors. In our case, we actually styled it to look like Airbnb. You don't need the additional things sometimes. If you do, again, all of this is customizable through that component's props. Now remember, we talked about props yesterday. That's how we customize a component and make it reusable. So far, we've actually already learned about props yesterday, and we actually learned about state already today. So we're going to keep on cracking on at this pace, and we're going to keep on smashing this. We are almost at 300 likes. Let's absolutely smash that thumbs up button if you're enjoying this right now. Okay, so you can go ahead and play with it at the live demo, but I'm going to go ahead and install it. So we're going to copy this command right here. And it's not only this we need to install. This actually requires that we have React and this other library called datefns, which is basically something called a peer dependency. Now, a peer dependency means that the component library that we're going to install relies on that. So we need to install all of this stuff, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first install this by going ahead and simply copying it, go back to my code, Command J, go to my second terminal window, and I'm going to go ahead and simply paste it in. So npm install --save React Date Range. You don't actually need to do --save anymore, but yeah. Martin says, hey Sunny, almost missed this. Thanks a lot, man. Your tutorials helped me with my React journey. Love from Nigeria. Thank you so much for tuning in, dude. I'm glad you made it. So we installed that successfully. The second one, npm install --save React in datefns. Even if we have React installed, you can easily, it will know that it did that. It's not silly. Yogesh says, can I submit day 2 work on day 3? Yes, you can submit all the homework up until day 5. And if you're watching a replay of this, still submit it. We have loads of coaches inside our course that would love to go ahead and review it. So make sure you go ahead and do that. Okay, let's go ahead and continue on, guys. So we've actually installed the 2 dependencies that we need. Now, you need to go ahead and install the themes and styles of that calendar. If you don't install the CSS files, what's going to happen is this will not look like this. So this has some base styling, hence why we need to import the style into our file. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab these two lines over here, go over here, up to the top, Command J to hide our terminal. And what I love to do is I love to go back to my main terminal, Command J at then, and I'm going to go ahead and import it. So we've got this React date range, dist styles, CSS, and theme. Hit save. You'll notice that nothing really changes out of the box. Okay. Well, Python says, hi, I'm an Italian guy. You are the best. Amazing stuff, dude. And I see you're coding in Python. I hope I can, sway you over to the JavaScript side. But I love Python too. Amazing stuff, dude. Okay. This looks pretty nice. And at this point, you see, we've actually got a class-based component example here, but we prefer to do, and I would recommend you do everything in functional components. If you do want to know the difference between a class-based and functional, if you've got that question and you want to see how you can convert class-based to functional, because the future is functional components for many reasons, it's much simpler for one. Then what I would recommend is there is a link in the description to a Skillshare 1 month free access where you'll get my React Basics 101, where you'll learn all of that stuff. There's a 3-hour completely free course. Link is in the description. Go ahead and feel free to grab that and then watch it over, and then you can come back and kind of, tune in. Sabine says, let's go, Sonny, from New York. I love to see international people jumping in, man. Honestly, welcome, dude. So rather than doing it this way, I'm going to change it up a little bit. I don't want the calendar. I want the date range picker. Okay. So I'm going to grab the date range picker like so. And what I did is I looked at this and I'm very familiar with how to change a class-based component into a functional. And again, you can check out the React Basics document 101 to go ahead and do that. And Andy Spencer says, is this live? Yep, it's live. Dude, now you know, right? Let's continue on. So let's go ahead and grab this right here. Someone says, why is your face shining every day? I actually take good care of my skin, guys. Merbon has me, she's like, don't use too many that products. And she's very tailored on making the skin glow. So it helps out. Quick water break, guys, because that is another thing which helps you stay fresh. Tia says, hey, Sonny, do you have a wife? Soon enough. Merbon is my gorgeous girlfriend. Right. Date range picker. We're going to go ahead and grab this. And then let's go down. And then now what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, we want to render it out inside of the div that we had only when the search input was active. Okay. So what I can actually do is I can say, okay, render the date picker, which is a self-closed component. All right. Now, if we just do that, then let's see what happens. So if I type in London, ooh, that's not nice, right? Doesn't look very nice. So we need to give this some values in this case. Right? You see, it doesn't have anything to work off. So what we actually need to do is provide something called ranges, right? So the ranges here is actually something which allows it to have some initial values to work from. Otherwise, it has no idea how to load stuff out. Okay, so what I'm going to do right now, Vibev says, I'm currently working with React Native that has class-based components. Oh boy, it's a headache to work with. Dude, definitely check out the React Basics. And if you do watch that, guys, please leave a positive review on it because it really helps it reach more students, and then it helps the world become a better place, helps all our React devs. So it really helps everyone out, okay? Let's continue on, guys. Thank you so much, Andy Spencer. I appreciate it, dude. So here what we do is we pass something in called selection range, right? So I need to actually go ahead and prepare something beforehand. So in here, I need to pass an array with something called selection range in. Now selection range is the variable that we're going to create, but I'm going to go up to the top of my code now, and I'm actually going to go ahead and say, okay, const selection range is an object, right? So this is kind of like a configuration for the date range picker, and we need to provide it with a start date. Okay, oops, start date, and we need to provide it with an end date. Okay, and we need to provide it with a key. And you're probably wondering, Sonny, that's not how you write an object. You're right. I need to fill this one out. The key is going to be something called selection, and then end date and start date I need to prepare. So we need to create two new pieces of state to keep track of the start date and the end date. So I'm going to go ahead and create those two pieces right now. We're going to create the start date variable inside of our state. Now remember, the syntax is you write the variable and then you write set start date. Okay. And then we say equals use state. Now, what value do we give a start date? Right. Now, in this case, I'm going to give it today's value because it makes sense. If you click a calendar, you should be seeing today's value and then you go forward and back appropriately. Okay. So in this case, I'm going to say the default value is a new date. And this actually gives us today. Okay, I'm going to copy this. I'm going to change it to say end date. So I'm going to say set end date. Now we have two variables. Now I'm going to use these variables over here. All right, so I'm going to say end date and start date. Okay, now we have our selection range. Right, so at this point, aspire to be better says, what an NG man, looking at comments, coding, speaking, and giving replies. Appreciate it, dude. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and say selection range. We've got this nice little juicy variable here. And yes, you can, if you've got ES6, in ES6, sorry, you can go ahead and shorthand this, but I'm just going to keep it there for simplicity, so you guys can understand what's going on. I'm going to grab the selection range, go down here now. I'm going to pass this into the ranges, and we're going to click save, right? And I'm going to refresh, and we're going to see what happens now. If I hit London, ooh, already, look at that already. Now it's not centered, and it hasn't got the right color scheme, and that happens because we haven't got an on-change function. So we're getting there, we're moving closer to the end goal, but we need to go ahead and fix these few issues that we have, right? So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and hit refresh on the page, and we're going to go ahead and do this, get rid of that, right? So it looks all right like this, but obviously we can't interact with it. So how do I fix these problems? At this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down to our date range picker, and I'm going to go ahead and include a second attribute. Now this one, firstly, I'm going to say the min date. So I'm going to give it a few attributes. The minimum date is actually going to be today. Now think about this. This means that the minimum date is actually going to be today. Now think about what that means. You shouldn't be able to go ahead and search for a date in the past when you're looking at Airbnb, because you need to book only in the future. I can't book a hotel or a house for yesterday. It has to be from today onwards, right? So that's why the minimum date is today. And then we're also going to say the color scheme. Now the color scheme for Airbnb, I actually have it here. So I'm going to say the range colors. And what we can do here is we can pass in an array of values. Now the array here, we only have one color, and this is going to be the Airbnb color. So I've actually got this one for you, so you guys can feel free to copy this. But if we go ahead and pop this in, that's actually the Airbnb color. So if I hit save on that, now you can see the range colors has turned to the nice Airbnb color. Okay. Dev Mental Live says the music is a bit distracting. Okay, no worries. I'll drop the music a little bit lower, and then we can go ahead and really dial in. This is where I need to explain a few things. So I got you, dude. All right. So at this point, we've got range colors a bit lower. Now over here, we're going to go ahead and say hit save, and it's all good so far. The final part is actually the ability to go ahead and actually select date. So if I try and do it now, it freaks out. It says on change doesn't work, right? So at this point, we need to include something called on change. Now, on change. Now I think the music's better at that point, right? Dev Mental Live's got a nice little badge. So at this point, we're going to make a new function called handle select. And what this is going to do is it's going to receive the values that the user is actually selecting. And then we're going to go ahead and update the start date and the end date appropriately. Okay. So the way this works is we create a function called const handle select. And what this does is it's an arrow function. Now, when we do this, just like we had the on change over here, which had an event attached to it, they've attached a few values with the handle select function. What they've actually given us is the ranges that you've selected. So that way we can actually go ahead and map that to the start date and end date appropriately. So at this point, what we can do is we can say, and then remember what happens, guys. It then goes ahead and actually maps that to the start date. Okay. So to make it super clear, I'll go ahead and pop this up here, although it does work if we do it the other way around. So at this point, I can go ahead and say set the start date, right? Set the start date to the ranges dot selection dot start date. And this ranges dot selection dot start date comes from the library. So when we click on that map, or on the calendar, sorry, this is where the value is given to us, right? It comes through the ranges sort of argument, sort of variable, and then we pass it into our state. So it's updating our local state, which then shows on the screen. We do the same thing for the end date. Set end date ranges dot selection dot end date. Okay. Now we hit the sort of save button, and I'm going to go ahead and refresh, and then let's go ahead and type in London. And now let's try and select a value. Okay. Still get it. It's evaluating ranges selection start date. Now, what is happening here and what have we done wrong? Let's actually look into this a bit more and figure out what is happening. So we've got the handle select. Are we passing it down? Yes, we are. Let's go ahead and actually check if we've done everything correctly as we should have done it. So right now it says undefined is not an object, selection.start date. Right, now bear with me 1 second. Let's go ahead and try this one more time. Let's do London. And again, we get the same value. Now I'm going to check that the actual library that we're using is the same version as the one I've got, just as a quick sort of sanity check. So we've got React date range 1.3. In this case, I've got React date range 1.3. Okay, perfect. So in this case, we need to go ahead and actually correct this. So handle date range over here. And I've done, simply put, let me go ahead and where is it gone? We're debugging right now, guys. We're debugging. You're seeing it real time debugging. It's all good. This is how we do it. Okay, so ranges, selection, start date. Right, so that looks pretty good to me. And let's go ahead and just double check and sand it. There we go. Okay. So what I'm actually going to do is I've got it written as an old school function. I don't think that will change yet, but I do want to just double check. I do want to double check if this changed anything for me. It shouldn't do though. No, so it shouldn't do that. Okay. So thank you so much. Satoshi Kawasoi says it's very helpful for me to understand React. Thank you from Japan. Amazing stuff, dude. Amazing stuff. Thank you so much. Okay. So at this point, let's go ahead and do London. So we need to debug this. So the first thing I will do is I'll console log the ranges and let's actually see what's inside ranges when we get this on change event firing off. So let's see. Everyone's saying selection, S is in caps. Nope, it's not actually S in caps. Oh, here it is. Yes. There you go, guys. That is the problem right there. Right. So this selection range is actually the issue. So you need a keen eye. And that was actually awesome. That was Mahesh that popped that one out. Amazing stuff. So when you're doing this, you can keep this as an arrow function. And that's the same thing as writing the old school way. But the main problem there was the key that we were passing was incorrect. Hence why this would have had to be an S, because that was the key that gets mapped here. So you want to keep it lowercase when you have your keys. We hit the refresh button and let's go ahead and try it one more time. If we've done this right, let's go ahead. Dude, did he just donate? Oh, okay. I thought he donated. Oh, damn, whatever you donated. Thank you so much, dude. So let's go ahead and hit London and wait for it. Boom. Yep. Start date got updated. 19th. Yes. There we go. Look how sick that looks, guys. We've got a nice updated look and feel. That's awesome. Let's go ahead and compare this to the actual one. Nice. We've actually got it working just like we had it over here. Right, and we can go ahead and tinker with these values. All works perfectly. Yeah, nice. Awesome stuff, guys. Now, at this point, it's still not centered. So we're going to have to style this out. Okay. Let's keep on going, guys. And remember, it doesn't matter what you donate. If you donate anything, that is huge. Honestly, it could be 1p. And I would honestly say thank you. It means everything. We never, ever look at the amount. It's always just, you know, amazing. And I'm grateful always for you guys supporting the channel. So at this point, we can go ahead and continue on. Pretty nice, guys. We're actually moving pretty fast. So we're going to go down to where the date range picker is actually rendering out. Now, I do like the music a little bit up. Let me know if it's too loud at any point. Okay. So we've got the date range picker over here. And now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to, you know, span this across 3 areas. So you see this div right here. Well, the entire header is actually grid column 3. And if you remember, we did it over here. We said grid columns 3. Okay, which meant that it was 1, 2, 3, and then it went ahead and the next component will come onto the, you know, the next row because it's not going to fit because we only have 3 columns. So what happens here is we can actually make this entire div span across 3 columns. So what I do is I say class name equals, and then we're going to use our lovely utility classes here. I actually want this to be a flex box. So I'm going to say flex. I want it to by default also be a column. Now the reason why I want that is by default, remember, flex goes in a row by default when you do it. Okay. Whoa. Someone just donated 10,000 cop. What is cop? But thank you so much. It's crazy. Appreciate you. Joanne Insignes. Appreciate you, dude. Thank you so much. We got this, the little donations flying through. Appreciate you guys so much for doing that. Right. So what we're going to do is we're going to make this next div span across 3. So that way we get it like this. So what we can do here is we can say flex column. And the reason why I said column, by the way, is because I don't want if I did row, number of guests in that would come next to this. I want it to be stacked in a column. Right. So what I'm going to do now is say column span of 3. Okay. Now you can see nothing actually changes visually. The reason being is because although it's taking up 3 columns now, we need to center it with MX Auto. And that says that the left and right margins will automatically configure themselves, and we can go ahead and hit save. And there you go. Now it will automatically calculate the left and right margin, no matter how big the page is. And we have a beautifully centered calendar picker. So if you guys thought that was sick and honestly easier than you thought, then go ahead and smash the thumbs up button. And I hope you've learned something already today, right? We're almost at 400 likes, right? Right, so let's go ahead and continue on. Mohib, keep it positive, dude. Otherwise, there's a ban coming, right? So date range picker. So what we're going to do now is I'm also going to say margin top should be 0. I don't think we need this now. Let me go ahead and check this out. I don't think we need that anymore. Screw that. All right, so at this point, if you do a margin top, you can say 10, for example, and it will just go ahead and push it from the top. So if you do want to add spacing, feel free to do so. I kind of like it when it's kind of touching. I think it looks kind of, slick and that it's kind of connected. Javier says, go in development. Appreciate you, dude. Thank you so much. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to create the next section here. Number of guests. You notice what I said there? Next. As the music went off. That's totally not awkward. So we have number of guests over here. And then we have this nice little kind of, we have an icon. We have a number here. And this is actually an input field, but it's a special number type. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and mess around with this right now. So what we need to do is underneath the date range picker, I'm going to create a div, and that's going to have an H2 inside of it. This is going to say number of guests. Right. And remember, because it's flex column, it's no longer going to the right of it. It's going underneath it. Right. So it looks really nice. Right. Dev Mental Life says, I find it easier and it's more clear, but I'm a functional programmer, so it fits me well. Okay, functional programming for the win. Nice. We're almost at 400 viewers. This is crazy, guys. I love the growth is just like, it comes up and up and up, and more people are tuning in as the days goes on. So it's awesome to see. All right. Almost at 400 likes, guys. The number of guests, we're going to style this a little bit. Now, what I want to do here is I want to make this, let's go ahead and make this a little bit smaller. There we go. Number of guests, class name equals, and this is going to say another donation of 10 pesos from Crypto Vikingo. Appreciate it, dude. Thank you so much, guys, for the donations. It actually means a huge amount, huge, massive support to the channel. Thank you so much, dude. So H2, we're going to go ahead and say that this should be text of 2XL. I want it to be bigger, right? It looks a bit boring right now. So I'm going to go ahead and apply that text 2 of XL. And then we're going to say the padding on the left should be 2. I want it to kind of push a bit over. And I want it to say, what am I doing? I want it to be, no, I don't want it to push it over. I want to say text 2XL, and I want it to basically take up as much as possible of the container that it's in. You see, in this case, this is actually separated from the component over there. Now you can do this many ways. Oops, I've got some guy's face coming up. You do this many ways. I'm just going to go ahead and say flex grow, which means that this will take up the most space that it possibly can. Okay, because next to it, we're going to have the input field. Cool. And then we're going to say border. Actually, no, sorry, we're going to say the font is semi-bold. Nice, semi-bold. Nice. Now if I go ahead and do that, boom. We've already got it looking pretty nice. Okay, pretty nice. So at this point, we're going to go ahead. Aman says, Sunny makes things easy. Thank you so much, dude. All right, so we've got the H2 popped up. Looks pretty simple. Now we've also got an icon. That's the user's icon over here. So I'm going to go ahead and pop this in. Now we did import that yesterday in preparation for this. It's a solid hero icon. So we've gone ahead and popped it in here. And we're going to go ahead and throw it in down here. So I'm going to say it's a self-closed icon. We're going to say that the class name is going to be a H of 5. So H of 5, which means height of 5. And you can now see that it's underneath. Okay, interesting. Now this is because we haven't actually styled the outer div. Now I do want this div to be a flex box. So I'm going to go ahead and say that this should be a flex box. Okay. Now it goes to the same, it will go across in a row. You see that? It goes across in a row. Then what I can do is I can go ahead and say the items should be in the center. So I'm going to centralize them, and I want to add a border B. So a border bottom is going to be applied here. And I'm also going to add a margin bottom of 4 because I want a little bit of space from the bottom here, right? So now that's looking pretty nice. Okay. So this is looking pretty good at this point. You see slight little margins, margin bottom to push it away. All of these things make it really, really easy, and kind of the visual aspect quite nice. Right? Nikhil says, dude, how do you manage all this? You're reading comments, coding, hats off. Joshua says, Sonny, the fact that you're best on YouTuber when it comes to React, keep it up, bro. Thank you so much, guys, for the positivity. I really appreciate it. Keep this energy and let's go ahead and crush it. We're almost at 400 likes. Let's get the number up, guys. Let's go to 1,000 again. Number of guests. Right, now I want that input field next. So underneath the user's icon, input, right? Now the type is not text, right? What I'm actually gonna say is the type is a number. And as soon as I hit save here, you can see we get this kind of cool number. Now that's kind of huge, right? Oops, I was scrolling when I was doing it. That's kind of huge right now. I don't want it to be that big. So the way I can do it is I can set the width manually, right? Oh, this song always gets me hyped up, guys. So we're gonna go ahead and say class name equals width of 12. And then I'm gonna go ahead and say padding left. Oh God, I always do that. I'm gonna go here and say padding left of 2. Nice. Sam Mon says, just finished yesterday's challenge. Wow. Welcome, Sam Mon. And I hope you enjoyed today's as well. Over 400 people tuning in. That's what I'm talking about, guys. That is what I'm saying. You guys are crushing. You turn up every day. That's the energy we need in the Papa Fam. Padding left of 2. Text should be large. We want that number to be a bit bigger, and I actually want it to have an outline of none. You see right now we get this blue border. I don't like that. I think it looks crap. So I'm gonna say outline of none. And then I'm also gonna change the text to a red of 400, which is like a nice kind of shade of red, right? Looks pretty slick. And that's actually very close to the Airbnb. So it looks pretty good. All right, Boss Slayer says, did you already make calendar? Yep, we already did it, dude. So you guys can pretty much feel free to rewind it and check up on how that worked. But look how sick that is, right? Now this right now, it's not actually mapped to state. Okay, so we don't actually have that mapping. Remember the value and the on change, we're not mapped here. Okay, so at this point, what we're gonna go ahead and do is create a number of guests piece of state, which is gonna track the number of guests I enter in that input field. So we're gonna do the same principle that we did earlier, guys. We're gonna go over to the top of the file, and then we say const, and I'm gonna say number of guests. And remember the syntax or the standard is set number of guests. Set number of guests. And what we do here is camel casing. So that's where you start off with a lowercase and then you camel case up, which means every like sort of new word there, it's not spaced, but it's a new capital letter. And that allows us to read it a bit easier. So we say use state, and the typical number of guests is going to be defaulted to 1, because you typically wouldn't book you're not going to book a room for 0 people, right? You're going to book it always for 1 at least. We're going to say the default value is going to be 1. Yep, Jamie says, oh, that's what we use the state to set the default value. Yep, that's why we do it. So now you go down to number of guests, and let's go down here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say the input is actually going to be a value of number of guests, right? And I hope this is making sense, right? So if we go ahead and do London now, you can see the default is that. And again, because I haven't implemented the on change, you guys can see that it doesn't actually allow me to increment it. So we do the same principle. We say on change. That fires off an event, in this case E. And E, we can go ahead and say set number of guests. And to get that number that the user changes, we say e.target.value. And that's how we get that number that the user does. If I hit save now, go ahead and give it a try. Boom, nice, looking awesome. Right, and that again is being mapped into state. And ooh, we can do that as well, which we want to go ahead and actually eradicate. So at that point, you can actually go ahead and fix it, and you can say min equals, let's go ahead and say min equals 1. Now we should see that the user shouldn't be able to go underneath 1. So you do want to do that to protect the user. So this is called, we always want to kind of validate the user's input. We shouldn't trust the user ever. We always want to kind of, Dev Mentor says, sensible defaults for the win always makes it easier on the user. Yes, it's all about the user experience. You always want to make it simple for your user. Let's go ahead and have a quick water break. Smash the like button, almost at 400 likes. We have 400 people watching across platforms. Dan says, damn, that was easy. I just learned how state works. Yeah. So in 2 days, you've learned how state works and how props work. And if you want to go even further, Skillshare, literally a free entire 3-hour course on Skillshare. Link is in the description for React Basics 101. Where you're going to learn about user effects and all other stuff. Okay. So let's keep this going. At this point, we're going to go ahead and say, we've got the input here. We're going to go ahead and underneath this div, we're going to say div. And this div is going to be responsible for the 2 buttons now, cancel and search. So these 2 buttons are actually quite simple. Now I'm going to show you a little trick. If rather than doing it like this, you can go ahead and say div button times 2, and look at that, it goes ahead and creates a div with a button times 2. Now you are going to need to set up Emmet, right? So if you do want to do that, just Google simply Emmet for React, and then you'll be able to find it online. And it's simply a little configuration that you're going to need to toggle in your settings. It will allow you to use Emmet. Plenty of videos online about how to use Emmet. Okay, I think we actually cover it in the React Basics as well. So what I'm going to do now is say div class name equals flex, because this is a flex. By default, we want it in a row. Nice. And the way that we kind of give it equal spacing is we make both of them flex grow, which means they're all both going to kind of compete for the space, which means that they both get equidistant spacing. Okay, so at this point, we've got the first button, which is cancel. We've got the second button, which is search. Hit save, and now you can see, look, they're kind of using up minimal spacing. In Flexbox, it's very conservative. It doesn't want to use up more space than it needs to. So we have to say, you can go ahead and grow. And you can see that's going to push the other one to the corner. And then if I go ahead and say the search also needs to grow, flex grow, same as saying flex 1. And then you see they battle for equal spacing. Okay. So at this point, remember, if you haven't already, guys, final day, subscribe or sort of sign up for it right now. Crowdcast is on. It's the actual final training. First link in the description. Make sure you're there because I want you all to get that ebook and the full training. And I'm also going to open the doors to a huge course, so go for it. All right, let's go ahead and style these buttons. The first one I'm going to say should be a text gray of 500. The second button should be a text of red of 400, which is that nice Airbnb looking color. Boom. Already looking pretty sick, guys. Now, when I click it, nothing happens with these buttons. What I want is when I click cancel, it goes ahead and does that. And when I click search, it will go ahead and do the next step, okay? So the first one I want to do is the cancel action. The way I do the cancel action, this is all linked to the state. So what we actually need to do is when I click cancel, I need to wipe the search input state back to an empty string. Aven says, why not justify around? You can use justify around if you want. I'm just showing multiple examples. Remember, when you're styling, there's several ways of doing things. It's kind of opinionated. You can do it however you want. In this case, I decided to use flex grow just to show you that you can go ahead and push it. All right. Shweta says, nice little tips. They're very helpful. Thank you so much. At this point, we've got the two buttons here. So when I click the first button, so button on click, what I want to happen is I want to say reset input. Now I haven't created this function, so I'm going to go ahead and go to the top of my file and I'm going to create this function over here. So this is going to be search input, and this is an arrow function. And yes, when you do write functions, you can also write something like this. You can say function reset input. Oops, reset input, and that could literally be a function as well. So sorry, it could be like this. That's also valid syntax, but this is the ES6 way of doing it. It's an arrow function. It's pretty similar, right? Don't worry about it too much. Now, when we click the reset input button, all I want to do is I want to set the search input back to its default value, which was blank. Okay, so let's go ahead and hit save. 400 likes, nice. We're absolutely crushing it, guys. We have so many people tuning in today as well. We just hit 400 across streams as well. Oh my God, you guys are sick. Honestly, thank you so much. I think I can actually see across the different things, multi-stream. Does that work? No, I'm not going to mess around with it too much. I'm going to see YouTube only. All right, so let's go ahead and hit save. Now we've mapped it. So if I try this out, cancel. Oh, that happened because remember, everything's connected, right? If I typed in a value here, we have search input is populated, which means we see all of the contents here because it's dependent on search input. When I click that clear or reset input, what we're doing is we're setting the search input to no, which then goes ahead and hides it. So click it, goes away. Awesome stuff, guys. All right, really, really nice. So at this point, what I can do is I can go ahead and say, look, London, and now we want to implement the search. Now the search is where we have the more interesting stuff happening. The search is going to go ahead and redirect us to the search page. Now the search page, let me go ahead and give you a quick demonstration of what that looks like. So we're going back to the main build here. And if I go ahead and say London and hit search, we should be redirected to another page. Now this page, that's actually going to be in the final day, the map. But in this case, we're going to be doing only this today. The map is on the next day. The map is tomorrow. Right? So what we're actually going to do here is render out this page. Now this page, notice there was a little delay. That's because it's server side rendered, which means that it gets prepared on the server, then it gets shipped to the user. So it's very quick for the user's experience. And it also means that the user gets the entire page at once, pre-prepared. It works very well. You're just seeing it in the development sense. So that's why it can come across slow sometimes, right? There's many pros and cons to doing that as well. Many pros, sorry. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to prepare this page. That way, when we click that button, I keep going back to the guy. When we click this button, we can actually send the user somewhere. Now, remember I said yesterday, inside of Next.js, the router is built into the actual page structure. So I'm going to give you a refresher on this, right? So in this case, when we have the home page, in this case, we've got localhost / and this is the home page, right? So in this case, we just come to this page. Now, if I want to have a / search, okay, so / search, then what we can do is if I try and do it now, it's going to say 404, the page cannot be found. Firstly, notice how we have a 404 page. That's really awesome. It's really nice. It's a slick part of Next.js. If we haven't built the page, it gives us a nice 404. If you want to customize that page, you'll simply make a 404.js page. Simple as, right? In this case, if I want to make a search page, I go to my pages folder and I literally create search.js. Keep it lowercase because you want to have it at, if we do uppercase, it's literally going to be / uppercase search, but I'm going to go ahead and hit save, right? Now we have this _RFCE for a React functional component with an export. And now this is the search page. Now, once you're inside the file, there is a standard. You want to have it as a capital S because this is a component that represents the search page, okay? So you want to keep your standards nice and high, okay? Almost at 500 likes, guys. Let's keep on moving. Let's go. So here I'm going to say H1, I am the search page. Okay, now let's see if it actually worked, right? Or if I'm chatting absolute rubbish. So I'm going to go ahead and say / search. I am the search page. Nice. So the beautiful thing about Next.js over typical just normal React, remember Next.js is a framework for React. Really nice part is that it has this built-in router that I just demonstrated. If you don't use Next.js, you're typically going to use something called React router to make that happen. And there's loads of setup involved. But as you saw, Next.js, it's already done. We just have to put the file in the pages folder and it works auto magically, right? So it's very nice, looks super crisp, and it looks awesome when we do it. Now, what's really nice about React, right? React, remember, it's component based, which means inside of the search screen, what we can do is we can simply go ahead and pop in our other components that we actually had. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and actually pop in, rather than this, I'm going to say, let's just have the header directly rendered in. Now remember, we actually created the header inside the components. So the header is actually pre-built. So at this point, I can literally say, okay, if it's simple as you say, Sonny, then we should be able to type in header, auto import, okay, self-closed header, and then it should come up when I hit save, right? Boom. We literally get the header pop in on this screen now. That's the beautiful thing about React. You can reuse the components across pages. So not only do we have the power of React, we have the power of Next.js as well. You can see why, we had that Goku animation in the first few sort of lessons or first video, because it literally is, right? It's very powerful. Quick little water break. Absolutely crushing it today, guys. Still got 400 across platforms. Keep up the positivity, guys. All right, let's go. Let's keep moving. All right. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and say, we're going to go ahead and do the following. So now we want the footer at the bottom of the page as well, right? So I can go ahead and say the footer, and then let's pop that in as well. Now, as you can see, it's only going to use up this. So if I want to use the entire height of the screen always, I can actually say class name equals height of screen. Now, why would I want to do that as well? It's because, and we actually don't sort of, spread it out, but why would I want to do that? It's because when we have the actual app, I just want to have it scrollable as well. Right, so, you can have this, you may not have it, it's up to you. Right now, what I'll do is I'll put it in when we need it. So that way it makes a bit of sense. Okay. So Marty says, you're crushing it with the speed today. Wow. Thank you so much, dude. All right. So boss mode over 9,000, Andre Gan. Thank you so much, dude. Appreciate you. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and implement the search page. So as I mentioned yesterday, it's very good to have, meaningful HTML elements. In this case, we're going to use something called the main tag, right? Which represents the main section of the page. So we're going to go ahead and say this is going to be a flex section. So we're going to go ahead and say this is a flex section. And what I actually want to do here is I first want to have the left-hand side. Now, the reason why we have flex is because eventually tomorrow we're going to have two elements side by side. We're going to have the, the section we're going to build today and then the map as well. But today we're only going to have this. So we actually have to have a section here which represents all of this. So I'm going to say section. Okay. And inside of section, I'm going to have a p tag and this, p tag. And the p tag is going to say, let's just say 300 plus stays for, let's just say 5 number of guests, right? And we're going to go ahead and, actually make this the actual values that you've entered in afterwards. They should actually have the dates and everything else. I'm going to show you how to implement all of that in a second, right? So we're going to carry on doing that. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you, we're going to make that dynamic in a sec, but for now it's okay. Right, so we've got that at the top, and I'm actually going to style that while we're at it. We're going to say class name equals text extra small. So text extra small, and then over here I'm going to have a H1, and this H1 is going to represent the stays in whatever place you've entered. So if I said stays in London, it's going to be, if I said stays in New York, we're going to go ahead and just pop in some dates, hit search, and then it'll say New York stays in New York and so forth. Okay. Now notice that we are pulling data from an endpoint, which is not going to dynamically actually search Airbnb across. We have a dummy endpoint at this point in time. We can't build everything in one go, but right now we will be server-side rendering those results. You can naturally then go ahead and extend the API endpoints. That way it accepts the location and you can pull in the information. That's a challenge for you guys. All right, but I'm going to show you how to implement everything in today's build. So H1 is going to say stays in, let's just say in Mars for now. So we know we have to change it, right? So we're going to go ahead and say the class name equals, and here I'll say the text should be 3XL. Okay. Text is 3XL. And here I'm going to say that we have a font, a semi-bold. Oops. I always do that, right? Font, semi-bold. And then I'm also going to say the margin top of 2, because right now it's touching it. I don't like that. And I also want to say margin bottom of 6, because as you can see, we also have some spacing between the underneath component. Now look at these. We're going to build them out in a sec as well. All right. Keep it going, guys. Keep it going. So we have the H1 done. Now for that section, we're also going to implement these buttons, right? So it looks very nice. We're going to go ahead and actually implement those. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to first create the first button. So I'm going to say div. And then inside that div, I'm going to have a p tag, and that is going to actually say cancellation flexibility. So these are going to be representing the filters as you see here. So type of place, price, rooms and bed, more filters. And you can go ahead and implement the filters if you want, or use headless UI and, take it as far as you want to go. It's up to you. We're almost at 500 likes, by the way. Let's keep crushing, guys. If you're enjoying right now, subscribe, hit the like button. You know what to do, right? Now, at this point, what I'm going to say is, you see, this is actually responsive. So if I go ahead and make it extremely small, by default on a mobile, we want to hide them, right? Now you can make it, have a little kind of, burger menu, it's called, like this, that pops out. Again, I'm going to leave some stuff for you guys. In our case, when it's on the mobile screen, we hide the filters. It's only after a certain point that we show them. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say by default, the class name is going to be hidden for mobile view. Okay. Now, so as you can see here, it's hidden, and then we only see it on, we don't actually see it yet because we haven't set the breakpoint at which it comes in. So I'm going to say on a large screen, then we do an inline flex, which means that it comes inline as an element. So in this case, when I go to my larger screen, it says cancellation flexibility. Okay. It looks really nice. At this point, what I'll do is I'll actually build it out and then I'll implement that so you can see it all the time. So I'm going to go ahead and actually build out this class name. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is actually go ahead and pop in the styles that we have here. So this is going to have a padding X of 2, a padding Y of 2. I actually want to make the padding X 4. Okay, so we're going to give it a bit more padding around it. And then I'm going to go ahead and say that this should actually have, let's give it a shadow of large when we hover over it. Okay, before that, we'll give it a border. And if you want a border to be thin, you just say border. Okay. In this case, look, we got the border. I'm going to say rounded full. Oops, rounded full. There we go. And look at that, looking pretty clean already. Okay, really nice. When you hover over it, I want it to be a cursor pointer. So at this point, I can say cursor dash pointer. And now we have the cursor pointer when we hover over it. Nice. And remember, we have those active states. So in this case, I can say hover. When I hover over it, I want to apply a shadow of large. Okay. looks pretty nice, right? That's looking pretty good. And when I click it, I want to say, you know, change the scale so that it looks like it's been clicked inward. So I'm gonna say when it's active. So when I click, scale it down to 95%. Okay. At this point, if I click it, okay, we get this nice clickable functionality behind it. Now, as you can see, these little subtle UI changes make the entire experience the way that we expect it. When we also click, we naturally expect to see the background color change as well. So I'm going to make that BG gray 100. Now, when I click it, oh, look at that, guys. So clean. So clean. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to transition it. So we have a nice little, you know, it's not going to just be a sudden click and it goes inward. I'm actually going to go ahead and make it a little bit nice. So I say transition. I'm going to make the transform part of that. I'm going to say duration should be 100 milliseconds and it should ease out. So that way it doesn't just snap, right? So immediately when I do it now, you see there's a little quick animation to it. And you see how it's like a very nice, smooth experience, right? Very smooth experience. Okay. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and do the following. So you don't actually have to use JSX file names for this. In Next.js and Create React App is smart enough to know that you actually use JSX. It got leveled up over the years, so that's why you can do it. All right. Okay, so Joanne says, why doesn't my page reload live at Sunny's? Yeah, unless you should have just do npm run dev. You may not be doing that, or it just could be something preventing your browser from refreshing. But in this case, we do ease out for the animation. So let's continue on. So we have this, right? Now I want to kind of repeat this. Now you can see a problem that's going to come up. And this was the problem that I first thought of when I first started using Tailwind. I was like, okay, if I've got loads of styles going on with one component, I want to keep repeating it. I'm going to get into the HTML problem where I just copy and paste a bunch of times and then I've got an issue. So how do I fix that, right? How do we go ahead and get around that? Well, we can go ahead and actually, you know, we can actually abstract this away into our own custom utility class component or sort of class name, right? So rather than doing this and having two p tags with the same things, and you can see the problem here, right? We're kind of, you know, it's highly coupled. You see that? We're going to have to change everything here. It's going to be super annoying. And in this one, we're going to have type of place. Right? So rather than doing it like this, what I can actually do is I can actually create my own custom Tailwind CSS utility class. So just like these, I can create my own custom one. The way we're going to do it is I'm going to go back to my code. I'm going to minimize all the folders so you can see it. I'm going to click package.json so I'm at that level of the file structure, create a new folder, and I'm going to call this folder styles. Okay. Inside of this folder, I'm going to actually add in something called globals.css. Global singular.css. This is going to be like a global CSS file, right? Now inside of this CSS file, I'm actually going to add in my own custom Tailwind utility class. The way I do it is I say @Tailwind and I pull in the components utility classes, and this is how you're essentially doing it, right? You can feel free to actually check out Tailwind's documentation if you want, but we need to do this firstly. Then what I can do is I can inject my own custom utility class into the components layer. So what I do is I say at the layer of components. What I can say is I can actually just start writing my own custom class here. And in this case, I'm going to call it button. I'm going to have it so when I add button, it's going to do all of these styling things for me. The way I can do is I can't just start writing Tailwind here. I have to say @apply, and that actually applies the Tailwind styles. And what I can do is I can go over to my header and I can take, no, not header, sorry. I can go over to my search page and I can take this styling over here, go back to my global, and I can literally just pop it in like so. Okay. And what this does, guys, is if I go ahead and hit save now, right, this is going to go ahead and actually create it in the way that we wanted. Right, so in this case we've got, and it should actually syntax highlight. For some reason it's not doing it right now, but it's okay. So in this case we've got this, and I'm just going to double check if I actually, I have added that incorrectly. Yes, I have, yeah. So in this case, apply, and we've got this happening here. So what we then need to do is actually pour this into our application. Okay, so the way we do that to pull in the pull it into the application is we go over to our app.js file. This is like the starting point in all of our applications. We go to our pages app.js, and this is basically like the starting point for wherever the pages get built up. And what we're going to do here is we're going to import, and we need to point to that file. So we go ahead, and right now we're inside the pages directory. So I'm going to go upper level // and now you can see we're upper level. So I'm going to say styles, and then I'm going to go into the globals.css, and we're going to pull it into our, onto our application. At this point, it says cannot find that file. Let's go ahead and double check why it can't find my style. See what's going on here. So we've got the styles happening here, blah, blah, blah. Can't resolve styles global.css. Oh, that's because I've got S, right? You need to make it singular. Okay. Now you can see it says cannot resolve blah, blah, blah. Let's go ahead and refresh, and it's done. You just need to give it a nice little refresh sometimes. Yep. Ahmet saw it as well. Loads of you. Jamie, nice. I like to see everyone, they're on point with it. Okay, so now no error, all good. So what we can actually do, if we've done this correctly, we can go ahead and hide this, and we can go to, and the reason why you're not seeing the @apply have syntax hide is because I deactivated the CSS, the Tailwind IntelliSense, because it kept blocking the page. You guys should have it though. I'm gonna go back to my, search page, and I'm gonna change this now and just say button. And notice how we have the exact same styling, guys. Button, boom. We now have a reusable utility class name. So what I can actually do now is I can go ahead and pull in as many of them as I want. So in this case, let's go ahead and say search, and let's actually have the rest of them. So I've got price, rooms and bed, and more filters. And then we can go ahead and hit save, and boom, just like that, we have reusable utility classes from Tailwind CSS. So not only do we have reusable components, but we have reusable utility classes, and we can create them as and when we need them. So that gets over that issue whenever you might think, I'm gonna have so much spammed out class names. Well, no, you're not if you do it right, okay? That's the beauty of it. If you do it correctly, this stuff gets powerful, guys. Okay, Andre says gangster AF. I love that, guys. Literally 12 likes away from 500. Who's gonna push it to 500? We'll have a quick water break. If you haven't already, remember, sign up for day 5. The link is in the description. First link, go ahead and do it right now. Let's continue on, guys. Okay, so we have the type of price. Now I want to make this look like that. Now how the hell do I do that? Right, firstly, I'm going to go ahead and go to my class, and I'm actually going to say that this is going to be hidden by default. Right, I'm going to say on the large screen it should be inline flex, and then I'm going to go ahead and give it a margin bottom of 5, so it has some spacing underneath it. Right, and I'm not going to hit save until I'm done with the changes. I'm then going to say the space between these X components should be 3, and they should be text gray of 800. Okay, and then I'm going to say white space, no wrap. And what that means is that if there is ever something that kind of gets extended above, I actually want to kind of never wrap the text onto the new line. I don't want to do that, so I say no wrap, white space, no wrap. If I do that now, you can see on the small screen it's hidden, because remember, mobile first, it's only going to appear on the larger screen, and boom. The reason why it applies flex, by the way, is because we've done inline flex. Okay, so this means that it goes ahead and drops it inline, and it has a flex styling property to it, and boom, just like that. Looks absolutely amazing, right? Really, really nice. Boss Layer says, couldn't you just make those buttons be separate components? Yes, you could. You absolutely could, and that's a very good point. But this is basically the purpose of these, demos and clones is to show you several ways of doing something. So this was to demonstrate that you can have a custom utility class in Tailwind CSS. But yeah, if you wanted to, you can go ahead and chuck that into a component. Sometimes you don't want to go ahead and, have too many components inside your app. So this is another fixer around it, okay? 500 likes, that's what I'm talking about. Let's keep going. 400 viewers across platforms. Guys, that's what I'm talking about. Let's keep on crushing. And if you're looking forward to building this out, then, show some hype. So we've done that now. The next thing I'm going to do is actually go to the section itself. And I want to make this section actually have a bit of styling to it. So this section resembles the box right here, right? And what I'm going to say to this one, this should be a flex grow. So you should take up as much room as possible. I want the top padding to be padding of 14. And I want padding on the x-axis to be 6, so that way it's not so constrained. As soon as I hit save, you're going to see that it now spaces itself out. Okay, now you won't have this issue once we have some contents popped in, right? So once there's some stuff happening down here, you won't see it's so squeezed together. So at this point, looks pretty nice. Okay, looks pretty good so far. So what I'm actually going to do now, guys, is go ahead and create the search results themselves. Okay, so the search results themselves, actually what we could do at this point is we can go ahead and have the redirect functionality. So firstly, when I click the Airbnb logo, I actually want to go back to the home page. Now, in order to do that, we have to use the router object inside of Next.js. Now, again, remember I said Next.js has built-in routing. So what we're going to do is we're going to tap into that and basically have it so when we click on this, it takes us over to the home page. Now, how the hell do I do that? All right, so I go over to my header, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and say, let's go to the header file right now. And I'm going to actually pull in something called the router. The router is a special object, much like the router that we use in React router in normal, plain, regular React. We're going to say router equals use router. This is a custom hook that they give us. And you can see it has a nice little IntelliSense. If you didn't actually get the IntelliSense, you import it like so. And this gives us a special router object. And that allows us to redirect the user to certain places. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say when the user clicks that image, okay, and what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to tap into the div that it's actually, you know, it's nested inside of a div. So I'm going to go ahead and go to that div and I'm going to say on click, I want to go ahead and have an inline function that gets fired off. I'm going to say the router should push a page. And now what I want you to realize is when you do any kind of navigation in an application, you are going to have something called sort of like a history of pages. Now, if you push a page in, so imagine I'm on the home page and I push the search page. Now, when the user clicks back or they swipe back, they're basically able to go back. Now, how does that work? It's because we have a history and you push the page on top of that history, which means when you swipe back, you now have the previous page that was there. So that's how it works. You're pushing pages onto this history and that way you can go back if you need to. Okay, you don't need to use history, you just use a special router object. So I'm going to show you a live demo of that right now. So we've got router.push and we're going to say go to the home screen. So / that's the home directory. Okay, let's give this a try. Let's go ahead and click Airbnb and then wait a second and it should go ahead and boom, works. Took us to the home screen. Now we are going to implement a little loader that will go ahead and do it. The reason why you're wondering, why wasn't it sudden, Sonny? When I use regular React, it's sudden. That's because we're in developer mode right now for Next.js, which means that it's actually building out the page every time. When we do it, when we actually deploy the app, it's going to be sudden because those pages get pre-built before deployment, especially if we're using get static props. If we're doing get server-side rendering, if we're doing server-side rendering, it's built at every request, but we'll go into that in further detail in a bit. So at this point, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and actually have it so that when I click on London and I do something like this and I click search, I want to redirect the user to the search page now. Okay. So what I'm going to do here, guys, is I'm going to go over to my home page, which is index.js. And then I'm going to go ahead and do, wait for it. Let's go over to my index right now. And I'm going to go over to my search. Now, where the hell is my search? My index page. Oh, sorry, it's in my header. I was wondering. I was like, where am I going? All right, yeah. We have the header input. There we go. So we have the input over here, right? This is where everything gets rendered out. Now, when we click the search, I'm going to go ahead and trigger off a function. So I'll say on click. And then when we do that, I want the following to happen. I want a search function to go ahead and get fired off. So this is simply going to be called, naturally, it's going to be called search, right? So I'm going to create this search function now, go up to the top of my file, outside the return block. And here I'm going to say const search, right? And we have access to the router because we pulled in the use router hook, which allows us to have it. Okay. And then what we're going to say is boss layer says, will you show how to deploy to web? I actually showed you yesterday, but I will be redeploying today as well. So stay tuned if you want to find out how. Okay. So at this point, what I need to do is I'm going to say router.push, and I can go ahead and do the same thing. I can go ahead and say / search, right? So that in theory works. If I click this now, it goes ahead and takes me to the search page, which is pretty sick. That's the first step, right? Do that, see if it works. Boom, your page routing works. But I mentioned before that we want the dynamic information that the user entered in the previous screen to go ahead and pass through to the next screen. Okay, so you can do this in many ways. Yes, you can use something like Redux or whatever, but this is beginner friendly. So what we're going to do is, and this is actually a pro to doing it this way as well, right? So I'm going to show you exactly how we're going to do it without any of that heavyweight Redux stuff, right? At the moment. So we're going to go ahead and keep it very simple right now. We're going to go back to the homepage. I'm going to say London, boom, boom. And then before I click search, rather than just doing a basic redirect, what I can do here is I can pass in an object and I can say, the path name is actually going to be /search. And I see loads of people asking, yo, why don't you just use the Next.js link component? This is why, because we're going to say, you know, push to the path name, but we're also going to go ahead and pass in a few query parameters, right? Now, what is a query parameter? What the hell does that mean? So if we look at the actual final build, what you're going to notice is if I go ahead and do, for example, let's just say I want to go to London and I'm going to go to, let's just say 9th to the 20th with 2 guests and I click search. Now this is going to go ahead and load up the search page and ignore the map for now because we're going to build that tomorrow. But if you see inside the URL right now, it actually says, it says /search and then it has something called query parameters. And here you can see we've actually got all of our variables being passed through. Now, why is there a benefit to doing this? Right, so we've got start date, end date, and a bunch of other stuff. Why is there a benefit to doing it in that way? Right? Because think about it. What you can then do is you can share the URL to someone else and they can actually have your search results dynamically loaded. Whereas if you use Redux, you're not able to do that. Right? So this is extremely powerful for that exact reason. Okay. So let's continue on. All right, let's go back to our actual application now. We go ahead and go back to our app over here. So we've got search. And what we're going to do is we're going to pass in a few parameters at this point. So we're going to say the location parameter, which is going to be, it's going to say location in the URL. We're going to say that is going to get mapped to the search input. Okay, so the search input. So now if we try it out, we're going to see that we're going to go to search. And you're going to see that it went ahead and took us to the search page, sure. But now you can see it's got location equals London. So you can see we're actually passing it through. It might be super small, but right now that says /search location equals London. That's called a query parameter. Okay. At this point, what we're going to do is we're going to say the start date is actually going to be the start date. Now you can't actually just simply pass in a date object. It needs to be a string. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say .to, and then you see we get these different transformation functions. So in this case, if I say to ISO string, this will give me a string representation that I can use inside the URL. I'm going to say to ISO string. Okay. And we'll do the same thing for end date. Now what you can see is if I go ahead and show you this to ISO string, and there's loads of different ones, like to JSON, all sorts. Then what we can do is you're now going to see, I'm also going to pass in while I'm at it, number of guests. Okay, hit the save button. And now let's go back to Airbnb. And let's go ahead and do, let's just say London, or I'm just going to test it. Let's just say Mars 919. And let's just change this to 3 and click search. Okay, now what we see is if we see this little URL, it says / location equals Mars and start date equals, we got a string representation of the date, and end date, and we've got the string representation of the end date, and number of guests equals 3. So you can see now we're passing over the variables through the URL when we redirect the user. Okay, so let's continue on. All right, so now what we're going to do, guys, is we need to go ahead and go for inside of our search page. I now need to grab those variables, right? So how do I actually get the variables from the search sort of URL? So from the actual page URL, how the hell does that work, right? So the way that we do this now is we go over to our search page and we need access to our router object. So what I'm actually going to do is, you guessed it, I'm going to go up to the top and I'm going to say const router equals use router. So this is why we love hooks. We've gone ahead and imported at the top, const router equals use router. And inside of router, we have access to something called router.query. Okay. So at this point, if I go ahead and say router.query, you can now see, if I go ahead and console log this, so console.log router.query, and go ahead and, I'm actually going to do a quick search. Let's go ahead and say London. Let's just make sure we can say Pluto. So you guys know I'm not lying. 8th to 10th. And let's say 4 guests. Search. Okay. And now if I go ahead and inspect, so I get my console up, you're going to now see, if I go to my console, you're going to see an object. Okay, now this object you can see has the end date, location, Pluto, number of guests 4, and the start date. So you can see we've successfully pulled it through using router.query. Okay, so at this point now we have access to the variables. Okay, so when we have access to the variables, we can actually go ahead and do something called destructuring to go ahead and get access to actually separate them all as variables. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say const. And I'm going to say pull out each one. So I'm going to say the location, the start date, the end date, the number of, let's go ahead and do it. Let's just say location, start date, end date, and also number of guests. And that's going to get pulled from router.query. Okay. And if you're wondering what this is basically saves us time. So we don't have to say dot location. So we don't now have to say router.query dot start date, router.query dot end date. Now I've pulled out each of them. So now if I want the location, I can simply go ahead and say console.location. This is called something called ES6 destructuring. Right. This is ES6 destructuring. You can feel free to read up on it afterwards as well. Okay, now you can check if the variables are null and redirect them away from the page. Sure. All right, so you can do that as an extension. I'm going to go ahead and show you right now how to just go ahead and show it on the screen. Okay, but very good Mohib for actually checking on that as well. Really nice. Okay, let's continue on. So I'm going to go ahead and we've got access to the variables now. So if that's actually what is happening now, surely I can actually go ahead and say on the screen the location, right? So now if we go ahead and say stays in and we change that to the location, now you can see it says stays in Pluto. Okay, let's double check it, Sonny. You know, you may be lying to me. Let's go ahead and go to New York. Okay, 9th to the 12th, and then let's click search. Stays in New York. Now all the other data needs to be changed, but this is actually working. Okay, so at this point now what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and correct the rest of the data. Okay, we've got 300 stays for 5 number of guests. So in this case, I can say number of guests here, number of guests, and that will now pull in the actual number, 2 guests. Okay, nice. And in this case, rather than saying, you know, stays for this many guests, I'm just going to say guests, right? So there you go. That's a bit cleaner. And then here, we're also going to say 300 stays, and then we're going to put the range. So we're going to have the start date and end date here. Now I'm going to need the range in a couple of locations, right? I actually want to have the ranges. So rather than saying start date, end date, blah, 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 I'm going to create a nice little variable for us, which compiles this for us ourselves. So firstly, I need to format the start date and end date, because remember, we compiled it into that little string. So remember that string that we actually got back over here? It's like this messy string right here, right? It's a kind of a horrible string. We don't want to show that on the screen. So instead now what I do is I say const formatted start date equals, right? And I'm going to go ahead and use a special format function. I'm going to pull in the format function from a special library called datefns. And we actually installed this when we set up the date picker. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and use this format function. I'm going to say format. I'm going to say new date. So I'm going to go ahead and build out a date object. And I'm going to say the date, we're going to pass in the start date. So it's going to go ahead and create a date object from the start date. So it will give us the date, and we actually push that and make it an object now. And then what I'm going to say is actually as an argument here. So you see format is taking 2 arguments. The first one is the object, and the second one is the sort of, the actual sort of formatting that I want to apply to the date. So in this case, you can actually pass, some syntax here. So I'm going to say it should be the date, the month, which will actually say, in text what the month is, and then the year. And you can look into this if you want more, details as to how that works. But you can go ahead and check on the format datefns documentation if you want to have a look as to how you can actually customize that more. It's actually you can customize it in quite a few ways. Then we're going to do the same for the end date. Formatted end date equals new format new date end date. Same thing. And then I'm going to create a string from these 2 values. I'm going to say the range is going to be backticks. Backticks allows us to include JavaScript in a string. So it's called string interpolation. And then here I go ahead and say, if I want to include a variable, so I can have some, random text there, or I can have a JavaScript variable and say, have the first date, and then have a dash, and then have the formatted end date. Formatted end date. There we go. Okay. Now I want to show the range on the screen. So now I can go ahead and pop the range in here. And just like that, it will now say 300 plus days, 9th of August 21 to the 12th of August 21 for 2 guests. Very nice, right? It looks very, very slick. Okay. So that is exactly how we see it here. That's how we're now pulling it through. Okay. So quick little water break. We are about to push through 600 likes. Let's keep going, guys. If you're enjoying this right now, smash the thumbs up button and, you know, keep going. Right. Let's continue on. So we're now going to go ahead and create the little placeholder that you see here. Now, how the hell did I do that? Okay. So in order to get the placeholder sort of customized, we have to actually add an additional prop to our header, right? So by default, you know, it's always going to say start your search. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and say, and I get loads of questions as to, you know, do you prefer Tailwind or do you prefer style components? 1,000,000% Tailwind. It's so much faster and it works way better with JSX. It's a lot easier because you don't have to leave the file. I would pick Tailwind CSS every time. Plus it has responsive breakpoints for a lot easier development. Any day I'd pick it, right? So let's continue on. And yeah, we've got the header here. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to include a special prop. So props come through like this for React, right? We can destructure props to go ahead and pull out the objects or the sort of, you know, keys that we want from the object. So in this case, I'm going to include a new prop here. So I'm going to, you know, rather than saying props.placeholder, I can actually destructure and I can say, we're going to include a new placeholder prop. Okay. Now this placeholder prop is not going to be required, but if it is passed through, for example, in this case, I'm going to go ahead and say, you know, I want the actual placeholder to be whatever, you know, some information about the actual state. So in this case, London, 9th of August, blah, blah, blah. So in this case, I'm going to say the placeholder is actually going to be equal to, and then I'm going to do backticks because I want a string interpolate here. Whoa, Sweden in the house. Much love, brother, from Passacaglia. I think I pronounced that wrong, dude, but thank you so much for tuning in. All right. All right. So let's continue on. Style components suck compared to Tailwind CSS, dude. All right. So now we're going to go ahead and say location. Yeah. And I'm going to go ahead and say, you know, a little line pipe, and then we'll say range. You can see why the range came in clutch here, right? And then we're going to go ahead and say pipe. And then I'm going to go ahead and say number of guests. Okay, let's continue on. All right. So at this point, let's go ahead and hit the number of, oh God, what is that? Number of guests. Yeah. And then here I'll say guests. Okay. So I hit save and nothing happened. Now the reason why nothing happened is we're not actually using the prop over here. Okay. Kosovo in the house as well. What's up, dude? Good to see you here. Valum M. Right. Maple Leaf says no such thing as better. Yeah, keep an open mind, by the way, guys. You might join a project where they use a style components, it works perfectly for them. I just prefer Tailwind, right? Okay, and I definitely don't like Bootstrap. I'll tell you that right now. That's not even a, you know, opinionated thing. Bootstrap's crap compared to Tailwind. I'll say it, right? So placeholder right here. Now what I'm going to do is, if we have the placeholder, I'm going to use it inside of the header component. Now how the hell do I do that? I go down to where we have the search itself. So if I go down here to the middle section where we have the search, I can actually say, where we just say start your search, I can put some curly braces around it, and I can say, okay, this is actually a nice little function or a nice little kind of, you know, operator in JavaScript that you can say, use the placeholder, or, so two pipes means or. So if there is no value for placeholder, it will default to this. But if we do provide a value, it will use this. So this is kind of a nice way of doing it. I'm going to hit save. And now you can see, look at that. New York, 9th of August, 12th, and it has the dates and then 2 guests. And I can type in, perfect. All right, and remember, because it's all, it just works so nicely, and you can actually continue to use that function. So if I do London, pick another date, so like 6 to this, blah, 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 2, hit search. Now it will go ahead and actually redirect us here as well. And we might actually want to close that afterwards as well. That might actually be a nice little, you know, additional feature that we can do. Right? In this case, it says London, 6th of August, and so forth. Okay. Oh my God, Jimmy coming in again with a £20 donation. He says, boom, keep the energy high, guys. And another person, Trust Onyemaki, just joined the Papa Fam special tier. That's the little YouTube join button. And thank you so much. That's a $4.99 donation as well. Thank you so much, dude. Appreciate all the love and support. Jimmy, dude, you're coming in clutch every time, man. Wow. That is sick. Thank you so much, man. Look. Hey, that's what happens when he comes in. Nice. Right. So at this point, we're now going to go ahead and server-side render some information. So we have that dynamic information pulled through, which is pretty cool, right? If you guys learned something new there, you can go ahead and actually say that. So you can actually go ahead and chuck it in the comments right now. So there we go. We've got this working. London 9th to this. Let's go ahead and say 7 and such. And now you can see London 9th to 26, 7 guests. And we've got all the information here. It stays in London. Perfect. Looking juicy, right? I do want to actually implement that loading indicator at the end. Remind me to do it, right, when we get to the end. But let's go ahead and server-side render that information. Now, remember, server-side rendering is basically preparing it before it reaches the user's browser. So remember, in Next.js, there is a middle server, right? In typical React without Next.js, the entire bundle is delivered to the user when they load the page. In Next.js, we have this middle server, which basically can process requests. So now when the user comes to the search page, I can use the information that we get, you know, at the URL and all that other stuff to build the page beforehand, get all the search results and so forth, and then deliver the entire page to the user without having it so that the user sees us loading kind of crap, and then it just, you know, I want the user so that when they go to the web page, boom, the whole page is loaded. That's why we use server-side rendering. It's sick, trust me. And that's why Google loves it as well, because those robots, when they come to your website, they're gonna get all the information at once as opposed to a little loader, okay? So at this point, remember yesterday we used get static props. Now, what we're going to actually do here is we're going to use get server-side props. The main difference between these two things is get server-side props means that every single time a user comes to the search page, it's going to go ahead and rebuild that page per request. So it uses that server every time a request comes in, right? So in search page, we're going to do that. On the home page, we use get static props. That meant that when we deploy the app, that's when the page gets built. And then every user that comes afterwards goes ahead and gets that version of the page, which means it's immediately available. But the danger with that is the information can get outdated. Now, there is something called incremental static generation, which I teach in 0 to Full Stack Hero. But for today, we're going to leave it with static props and get server-side props. Okay? So let's continue on. So we're going to go ahead and actually server-side render. So to implement server-side rendering, you go down to the bottom of the file, and all we have to do is include a special function. Then Next.js knows how to do that little kind of middle server rendering step. So this is an asynchronous function. We go ahead and say function get server side props. And remember, go on to, you know, have a look online as to what actually this means. If you want to go ahead and check it out, check out Next.js documentation. You can get something called the context here, which allows us to get things like, you know, the query parameters, like the root to query. In this case, we have dummy return information from an API that I provide. But again, you can extend this app and do whatever you want to do. That's, you know, it's up to you. That's why I told you about the context object. At this point, we're going to say const search results. Now I'm going to go ahead and fetch them from an API. So I'm going to say await fetch, right? And the search results, I've nicely gone ahead and popped into this URL. It's links.popreact/ISZ. If I go to this right now, you're going to see that we actually get a nice like little returned object. I don't know why there's a monkey in the corner, but now you can see, now you can see that you get an image, you get this object. It's an array of objects, right? So check this out. So now you can go ahead and see image, location, title, description, star, price, total, longitude, and latitude. Now the longitude and latitude is going to be very useful for tomorrow. Okay, but what we're going to do is we're going to use that in tomorrow's build. We're going to use the rest of the information to actually render out what we see over here. Okay, so let's go ahead and actually get this built out. Okay, so at this point, we get the results. And then in order to actually get, you know, when we do a fetch, we actually get a bunch of other information. We get like what type of, you know, in this case, it's a get request that we're making. We get a bunch of headers and all this other stuff. if I just want the response.json, if I want the JSON object that comes back, which stands for JavaScript object, and you get notation and all that stuff. It's basically a JavaScript object. Then you're going to say, then pass the response as a res.json. So this gives me back the JSON object that we saw over there, right? And this is basically allowing us to wait for it to come back. It passes it, and search results comes through here. So this will now have that JSON file that you saw over there. Okay, whenever you use await, you do need to have an asynchronous function. It does not work if this was like this, it doesn't work. Okay, so then once we've got this, how do I return it to the actual page? Right, so all of this stuff is happening on that server step in between. What happens? How do we actually pass it back to the page? We say return, and then we say props. So we saw this yesterday when we did the home page. What I'm going to say here is search results. Now again, you know, if you've got ES6 allows us to shorthand this if the key and value is the same. So in this case, I can just say return the search results. Okay, so how do we get access to these search results on the actual page? Okay, how the hell does that work? So what I can do now is I go over to my search page and I actually pass through the props. I can destructure the props and I can get the search results out of here. This has that nice juicy object that we saw previously. Okay, so I can now use that object to render out all of this information. Okay, that's pretty cool. Now, if you're probably wondering, Sonny, I want to see proof. I don't believe you, dude. That could be a lie, you know. You don't know how to trust people these days. So I'm going to go ahead and prove it to you. I'm going to console log the result. So let's go ahead and inspect the elements. Let's go ahead and pop this out. Let's just say inspect element. Okay. And then I do console, and now you can see there's an array of 7 that gets returned. And as you can see, it has all the information, the description, image, latitude, longitude, location, price, star, title, and total, right? So this is sick. It's coming through. It works. Okay. Decaf says, bro, you're too clutch. Thank you so much, dude. Appreciate you, man. I love the positivity. And he says, do code Angelino. I'm not sure what that is, so probably not. So search results. At this point, we're going to go ahead and jump down to underneath the div that we had over here. So we're still inside that section, okay? But I'm actually going to be, let's have a look. So we've got the div over here. But I'm actually going to go ahead and pop in a map. So I'm going to do a map here. So a map is how we go through an array and return some screens on, return something on the screen. So I'm going to go ahead and say, JSX, so it's curly braces, search results dot map. Okay. Now for every time we map through the item, so in this case, it's going to be the actual search results. So in this case, search results is an array. The singular item is search result, or you can just say item, right? I'm going to do a direct return. Now, in this case, a lot of you may slip up here because you end up using curly braces. Be careful. If you want to return a JSX object, you use the parentheses directly. If you want to have several lines of code, put the curly braces and then you have to return the parentheses afterwards. Okay, that's just something you need to know. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and actually create a component to represent each of these things. This is going to be called, let's call it the info card. Okay, so it's going to be the info card component. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to go ahead and say, I'm going to create a component here and I'm going to call it the info card.js. Okay, underscore RFCE to prepare it. Nice, right? We've got that working pretty good. Now, this is going to accept all of the props that we actually got previously, right? So this is actually going to be, the image, location, title, description, all that stuff that came through. So we're going to do destructuring, and I'm going to go ahead and pass in the props here. So we're preparing ourselves to get this thing ready so that we can push the information through it. So we go back to our search page, and here I'm going to go ahead and say, info card. We're going to render each info card out, and you see it auto imports it at the top, info card. And then I'm going to go ahead and say, all right, we are rendering it out. Now I'm going to pass through all the props. All right, reviews point says, you're awesome, bro. Thank you so much, dude. Appreciate your positivity. And guys, remember, if you haven't already, first link in the description, sign up for the day 5 and also get my React Basics 101 class for free. The Skillshare link is also in the description. You just got to search around for it. And we started a podcast, go and just dive around that section right there. Info card. So at this point, for the info card, I love this track, man. These songs get me hyped when I'm coding. All right. So I'm going to go down to the search, and what I'm going to do here is I'm going to pass in all the different items. So we've actually got a bunch of things here. We've got things like, you know, the image equals the item.image. And if you're wondering where the hell is he mapping this stuff to, it's basically mapping to the response that we get back. So it's the item.image, right? Now this is going to continue on. We've got location equals item.location, so forth. Now you can see there's a kind of an annoying thing we have to do, item.item.item. Right? So at this point, what we want to do instead is destructure the item and get all of the things that we need out at that point. Right? So what I can do here is I can go ahead and pull apart here, and I can say, give me all of those props. This is destructuring. You see why destructuring comes in like clutch, right? Jimmy's absolutely right, because if you like my teaching method, then the Skillshare course is fire. Go ahead and check it out, absolutely free, link in the description. Leave a positive review. It helps it, helps it grow. All right, let's continue on. So we're gonna go ahead and say this. Now we don't have to say item.item. Right? So at this point, it's pretty simple. We can go ahead and pop those through like this, a location, image, and so forth. Now, whenever we're mapping through, we should always have a key. In this case, you should be using an ID, right? Or something, a unique identifier, something which I would say is actually a better unique identifier in this case would be like the longitude or latitude. But in this case, I would say I'm going to use the image. I know it's not the best one. It's just for a demonstration, but you should really have an identifier here. That would be a unique to that component that allows you to go ahead and map through it easier. Okay, so at this point, that looks pretty nice. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, you know what, Vikram's right. He goes, okay, so I got a funny one. Boss says, how's he not tired yet? I'm already tired. All I'm doing is listening. Vikram said, I think he even went to the gym. It's an incredible flow state. Yeah, do you know what? I did go to the gym. That's why I've got so much energy right now. I don't know, it gives me a nice boost. And on top of that, we are in a flow state. I'm not going to lie. It's a complete flow state right now. So I'm dialed in. All right, it takes time to get to that point. It takes a lot of practice teaching to get to that point, but yeah, you guys can do it too. I'm going to surround all these search results in a div, which is going to be a flex box. Okay, so I'm going to get all these search results and I'm going to pop it inside of a div that I'm going to then style and just say flex box. Okay, so remember, flex box by default defaults to a row. This is not a row, obviously. I want it to be a column, so I want to say flex column. Okay, so we're done. Joking, you don't see anything on the screen. That's because InfoCard's empty. So we're passing all the props through, but nothing renders out on the InfoCard. So this is where we build out the InfoCard now. Okay, so before we continue on, quick water break. Smash the thumbs up. We're 10 likes away from 600. Keep crushing, guys. Honestly, I love the support. Okay, let's go, guys. Joy Samuel says, first time on these lives, intense, dude. Yeah, man, I love it. At this point, we're gonna pull in the Next.js image component because we're gonna need to render an image. All right, and what we're building right now, if you're tuning in new, we're actually building out this card right here. We're gonna build out that beautiful card. So at this point, I wanna actually have a div with the card, because if you remember, when we do the image component, we make it layout fill, and then we sort of, wrap it in a container so that way we can put the shape on it and all that stuff. So I'm gonna have a div with an image component inside of it. Okay, the image component is a self-closed component. The source of the image is gonna be the image that we pass through as a prop. So if I go ahead and hit save, it says, whoa, 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 you have to use width and height. Now remember, this is because Next.js does some clever compression to the image beforehand. Okay, Code with Azam says, change the song to Don't Want to Sleep. Oh, sick, man. You know what, I will actually do it because you asked. If I can find it. Can't find it right now, dude. I'm gonna have to carry on, but yeah, it's in the playlist somewhere, right? So let's continue on. Well, now we have to go ahead and prepare Next.js. So you can either pass in width or height, or you can make layout fill. I'm gonna make layout fill, and then I've got the surrounding div to go ahead and make the styling and be applied appropriately. So if I do layout fill now, you're gonna see it's actually gonna spam the entire size of the screen. Now we don't want that, right? And it's just gonna pop in as it loads. That's not ideal, right? That's really not ideal. So what we can do here is we can go ahead and firstly, I don't want it to, lose its distort. I don't want it to distort like that. So I'm gonna say object fit should be cover. This means that it will just zoom into the image rather than distort it. Okay, looks a little bit better, but it's still awful, right? So I'm gonna go to the actual class name, which is for the div surrounding it. I'm gonna say it's relative. This means that the image inside is now relative to the size of the container. Right now it disappears. This is because we have to define a height. Right, so in this case, I'm going to say the height is 24 and the width is actually 40. Okay, hit save. Now what you're going to see on the screen in just a second is everything load up. Right, so we see all these images being popped on the screen in a very nice fashion. Height 24 and width of 40. Nathan is from Cheers from Brazil. What's up, dude? Good to see you here. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and say on a medium screen, remember this is mobile first, but on the medium view, I want the width to grow. I want it to be a height of 52 on the medium screen. And on the medium screen, I also want it to be a width of, let's say 80. I want these pictures to grow when we have more real estate. Right? I also don't want to shrink them, so I'm going to say flex shrink of 0. This actually, you can look into flex shrink a bit more, but this means that they won't shrink if, you know, if they have to. I'm actually going to prevent that. So now you see, if I go ahead and make it smaller, after we hit the medium screen breakpoint, it gets a bit bigger. Nice, right? That looks pretty good. Now what we're going to do, oh, congrats, Sonny. Finally 69. Oh, wow. Did we hit 69,000 subs? 69,000 Papa Fam subs, man. That is... I was about to swear. That was crazy, dude. Nice. Holy. All right, guys. We're also at 600 likes. Keep on smashing. Break the damn thumbs up button. That's sick. That is sick. Thank you, guys. All right. So underneath that div now. So the next step is we're going to have this text. Now, remember, when we're building this stuff out, right, you want to go ahead and compare. Oops, I've got that from yesterday. You want to go ahead and actually... you know, componentize everything. So this in itself is a div, okay? And we've already done the image div over here. So this is a div, and then the overall bloody thing is a div as well, right? So this is the actual InfoCard div that surrounds everything, right? So this is how you want to kind of visualize it beforehand. So we've done this div on the left-hand side. That is actually done. Now we're going to build out this div over here, okay? So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and do the following. We're going to say div, okay, and that's going to have a div inside of it. Right now, I'm going to show you why it's going to have a div inside of it, because what we're doing is we're separating a few things. The top div is going to have private room in center of London, and then it's going to have flexbox spacing with a heart at the end of it. Okay, so I'm going to show you how we do that. So we got the div here. We've got a p tag which says the location. All right, so this one is going to say the location. So in this case, it says private room in center of London. So if we go ahead and do that, you can see private room in center of London. All of them have the same location in this case, right? And then what we can do is I thought I changed that, to be honest. I thought it was actually different, but interesting. Okay, anyway. So what I'm actually going to do now is I'm actually going to pull in a heart icon. So we're going to pull in a few of the icons beforehand, so that way we have them ready. 2 icons, heart icon from the outline variant and star icon from the solid variant. Okay, and you can go ahead and see here, we've got the star down here and the heart over there. So we're going to go ahead and use that. All right. Renato says the image component from Next.js does some trick to optimize the image. Yes, it actually goes ahead and compresses it down to a WebP format. That's why we have to go ahead and let it know what the sizing is like. Okay, so at this point, we've got the location here working nicely. We actually want to pass in a height icon. And this heart icon, I'm going to go ahead and say the class name should be a height of 7. And I want the cursor to be a pointer. So cursor dash pointer. Right. So now you can see, look, it looks pretty nice. But again, I want that to actually spread across like that. How do I do that? I make it a flexbox so it defaults to a row. And then I say justify between, which spaces it out between it, right? So we're going to show you that in row time. I'm going to say class name equals flex. That will put it into a row. You can see in just a second, it's going to go next to it. Any second now. Any second now. There we go. Yeah. And then we're going to say justify between. And then that would actually space it out. So that way it flies across, uses up the space. It justifies some space between it. Okay. You can put a skeleton loader for the image. Joseph Tran says. So I would like you to do that for your challenge home, my dude. That'll be sick little addition that you can add on. The overall div that surrounds everything, I'm going to actually style that one a little bit as well. I'm going to say that this class name, and this is actually going to resemble this part of the div here. I want that to be a column, a flexbox column, and then that way everything stacks up on top of each other. So I'm going to say this is a flex column, okay? And we're going to say that should grow. So flex grow, and padding left of 5. So as soon as I hit save now, you can see a few things take action, right? Now, the reason why it kind of looks a bit weird right now, so that's the padding left I just applied, is because the overall div, we haven't actually applied a style to it, right? So if we go to the surrounding div and we say that that's a flex box, this will go into a row as opposed to a column, and now it will move to the right-hand side of it. Okay, this is why it goes into a row instead of a column. Okay, so at this point we've got the few things looking pretty nice. We're gonna then have a H4 which has the title, and that's actually going to be, you know, the room that we're looking at. So in this case, we go ahead and pop that in. It says independent luxury studio, stay at the spacious Edwardian house. Now these look exactly as the same as the rest of the text. So I'm gonna make it say text Excel, and now you can see this should go ahead and look a bit bigger as well. We should be able to have it, you know, there we go. It's starting to look a bit nicer. Okay. The next step that we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and say we're going to have a div, and this div is actually going to be a line of its own. So you see this div here, if you just want to have a little independent line with Tailwind, you can do a nice little trick here, right? You can actually just have a little div, and I will have a little water break in a sec. Thank you, Andre. We're going to have this. I'm going to say a little div self-enclosed, and I'm going to say class name equals, and this is a very nice trick, by the way. We're going to say border bottom for this little div. The width is going to be 10, okay? And I'm going to say the padding on the top should be 2. Now you're going to see a nice little line, which is resembled from a div. So that's the nice thing you can do about Tailwind CSS. And yeah, Andre smashed it. Let's have a quick water break, guys. Almost at 700 likes. Keep crushing, guys. Shri that Raj says, I'm hydrated because it's sunny. That's it, guys. You got to stay hydrated, otherwise you'll go crazy when you're coding. Let's crack on. We've got the div in play. Next step is to get the p tag, which has the description. So okay, so we're going to put in a description here. So JSX description, and then let's go ahead and say that p tag should have a class name, which is, thank you to all the new subscribers as well. I see you guys popping in. If you're enjoying it, subscribe, smash the like button. I will keep delivering on these builds. Now you can see it's a little bit squashed up right now, so I'm going to go ahead and save that afterwards, and we'll go ahead and repair it and, you know, make it responsive as it needs to be. But for now, I'm going to say that description text should be padding top of 2. It should also say the text should be small, because there's quite a lot of text, right? So we're going to make that small text. We're also going to say the text should be gray, and it should be a shade of gray, which is the 500. I think it's 500, yeah. Let's do 500, and then we're going to say flex grow. I want it to take up as much space as it can in its container that it has. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Looks a bit more bearable. Still not that nice on a small screen. We're going to make it look a bit better. All right, so let's continue on. So we've got the p tag looking nice. Okay, so then the next thing we're going to do is have the div. Now the next div is going to be responsible for this. We've got the star on the left, and then we've got another div over here which has £30 a night, 117 total. So you can think of everything in terms of boxes, right? We've got a box around here, a left side for the div, and this one on the right. So what we're going to do now is we're going to have a div to resemble that, okay? And on this one, we're going to have a p tag for the star. So this is going to be for the little star icon over here. The star icon is going to say star icon, okay? And I can see Jason just joined the actual Skillshare React Basics 101 class, so make sure you check it out, guys. That's going to be dope. If for you can actually learn how to use all the basics of React for free. Link is in the description. Here we're going to say height of 5, and the text should be red with a shade of 400. Let's hit save and see what happens. There you go. Pops down to the bottom. The reason why it's at the bottom, by the way, is because the p tag above it is flex grow, and we're in a flex column structure, which means it's growing, taking up majority of the space, and that allows it to push to the bottom. That's how we managed to achieve that. Okay, now the p tag over here, I'm going to go ahead and say I'm going to pop in a star next to it, because it's actually already a p tag. Now you can see that this happens, right? So we can actually go ahead, and if we've got 2 child elements inside of a p tag, we can actually say that the p tag itself is a flex, right, style, and we can actually center the item. So you see, it's slightly off at the moment. We can say items center, and this actually allows it to center. So it looks pretty nice, right? We're doing pretty nice at this point, all right? So let's continue on. Eugene says, good work. Thank you so much, dude. Right. And then we've got that bit. Now we also want to have the money part. So that's going to be a div, and we're going to have 2 p tags inside of it. So p times 2. So I just typed in div with a p times 2 inside of it, and then enter, and that's Emmett for the win. The first one's going to have the price. The second one's going to have the total. Okay. Now you can see it pops in underneath. So we're going to get that to that. Now, how the hell is that going to happen, right? Firstly, I'm going to go to the surrounding div, okay? And in the surrounding div, I'm going to say it should be a class name where it's flex, okay? And that means that it will now go into a row, these 2 containers, right? Just taking a second to update. Give it a second. Now you can see it goes into a row. Then what we're going to do is we're going to say that this should be justifying the space between it. So this will push the two elements, the star and the price, apart. Okay, so once we've done that, then you can now see that we've got the two items apart. And I'm also going to say items end to push it to the end in case it wasn't already, which it is, but it's just safe. I'm going to say padding top of 5, and that would actually give it a little bit more padding so it pushes down over on this side. Okay, looking pretty nice at this point. Okay, looking pretty good at this point. Now we're going to style the price and the total. Price and total, so they look a bit weird. So we're going to go get to price first, and we're going to say the price should be text large. Okay, and then we're going to say the font should be semi-bold, and I'm also going to do padding bottom of 2. Hit save on that. Now you can see that now it looks a bit bigger for the text, but also I want to say on a large screen I want the text to actually be 2XL because we want to use up the real estate when we can. 2XL, sorry. Okay, now let's see, as we get onto a large screen, you see that price got a little bit bigger. That's a lot nicer, right? Awesome, looking a lot better. Then we're going to go ahead and style the next P tag. The P tag over here, so Andre Gan says, so much flexing, baby. Exactly, dude. Here we're going to say the text should be right, and that means it will push it to align right. So now it's at the edge of the screen. Nice. And then here we're going to say the font should be extra light because we want to, you know, we have a light little kind of touch on that, right? So now you can see extra light. Little details, guys, little details. Looks so clean. Okay. Everything looks crammed as hell. It doesn't look good in mobile view yet. We still need to fix all that. But all the information is on the screen, okay? And we also want the hover effects. How do I get these hover effects? Yeah, so let's go up to the surrounding div now for the info card, okay? The surrounding div info card. Now I'm gonna do padding Y of 7, hit save. Padding X of 2 to go ahead and add some additional padding from the sides. As soon as I do that, you're gonna see that we have a little bit more spacing now, which already looks a hell of a lot better. I'm gonna add a border bottom to each info card. Right, and I'm going to hit save every time I do it, so that way you guys can see it pop in. I'm going to do cursor pointer, and now you can see we've got the border bottom. Cursor pointer will allow us to have the cursor pointer kick in, and already looking a hell of a lot better. Okay, so what I'm also going to do now is when I'm going to say hover, opacity should, so when I hover, the opacity of the container should become 80%. Okay, now when you see that, look, that gives you a very nice kind of, you see that, look, very subtle but nice effect on the screen. The next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna say when we hover, there should be a shadow LG, right? So shadow LG, 1 second, where have I gone? Shadow, yep, shadow LG, right? At this point, right, 1 second. Right, at this point we've got, guys, we're almost at 700 likes, by the way, crushing, right? Shadow LG. So if I go here, there you go. Look at that, shadow large. And that, you see the little subtle details. You can add additional padding on the right as well. That looks a bit close, to be honest. So you could add in, like, if you wanted to, you could do padding right of, like, you know, 4, and that would pad you a little bit more. And that looks a bit cleaner, right? So that looks already a hell of a lot better, guys. All right, with just some padding, some shadow when we hover and so forth. Now, again, we don't want it to just snap, right? We want this kind of, you know, graceful, elegant transition. So what we can do now is I can go over here and I can actually say transition, and I can say duration 200, right? Duration 200 and ease out. And then I can say, okay, that looks pretty good. Now, what if only for the first child in the list, I want to give a border top. So, you know, in this case, only the first one, I want to give a border top. I don't want it for the rest of them. I just want the first one to have it. You've got a very handy modifier here called first. So this will target the first child in a list of elements. And we can go ahead and say for the first one, I'm going to give it a border top. Okay. And then now you'll see it doesn't add it to everyone. It only adds it to the first child. To prove that that actually works, I can say first. Oh, what have I done? First. Oh, BG. Oh, God damn it. First, BG red 500, just to show you that that's going to work only for the first one. Right? So you see, it actually works in a very nice way. So in this case, we're going to apply the border top. Nice. Right? It looks really, really cool. There you go. It actually did apply opacity to the text. It's just very subtle. If you look at that, it's actually applying opacity there. Right? So it does apply it to everything. This is sick, guys. This is looking really, really nice. Right? So at that point, I think we've almost finished, right? We've almost done it. We've almost got everything working. You're probably wondering, Sunny, but that looks perfect, dude. That looks, everything is like, you know, where it needs to be. Well, we're very close, but we have one slight change. Now, you're probably wondering, where the hell is the change? It's actually when we go ahead and click a new screen, we want it to go ahead and have the loading indicator. So in this case, you can't see it here, but let's go to the actual final build and let's go ahead and click search. And we haven't actually got it here, but I want to have a nice little loading indicator at the top. So you see that little red bar that flew across? Now I want to have that. So we've only got the loading indicator to go ahead and pop in, and that's it. Suspended subscriber says, hey Sunny, I got my new job today as a React developer. I followed you since a long time and I completed all your projects twice. Credit goes to you. That's sick, dude. Well done. I hope you enjoyed the challenge. Just keep crushing, dude. So we're gonna have a content loader now. Lightning in my hand says, yep, gotta have a content loader. Exactly. We're gonna actually tell the user that something is loading, right? So how the hell do we do that? Okay. Oh, we're missing the border radius. Good shout. Good shout. Someone called me out. I need to be called out, right? So we go to the div with the image container and let's go to the actual image itself. Go ahead and add in a class name. Thank you so much for doing that, by the way. Let's say rounded 2XL. And then let's go ahead and pop that in. And that is the icing on the cake, right? Now give it a second. Boom, it pops in. Look at that. Very nice. Very, very nice. Right? Look at that, guys. Oh, looks slick. Okay. Looks very nice. And remember, it has those responsive kind of, you know, buttons. Oh. Let's go ahead and add in the loading indicator. So to add in the loading indicator, all we need to do now is let's go over to app.js. That's because the loading indicator is going to actually, you know, take effect across the entire application. The loading indicator is essentially when the user transitions to another page, rather than them kind of seeing nothing happen on the page, I want a little red bar to go across that will actually go ahead and, you know, update depending on the router's state. So when it changes, it will go ahead and update the sort of, you know, it will show that loading indicator fly across. So let's go ahead and implement that. So at this point, what we can do is we can go ahead and check out something called, and it's actually from a very nice library from this dude over here. So it's bad rap bar of progress. This one right here. Okay, so there's a lot of examples as well, but this is the npm library that we're going to be using, and in this case you can see it's a pretty nice little, you know, dependency that we're actually going to pop in. Okay, so what we're going to do, guys, is we're going to go ahead and actually pop this in. Now there are many libraries to do this, right? This is just one way of doing it. Well, we have Chicago in the house. Code with Azam. What's up, dude? Right, so I'm going to go back. I'm going to go ahead and pop in my ZSH on my ZSH, and we're going to go ahead and install it. So npm I bad rap bar of progress. Okay, let's go back to our homepage, you know, to just, you know, get everything looking a bit sleek. Go back to our node, okay, and Command J to hide the terminal. We've already got it installed. So I'm going to import that from that library. So import the progress bar from that, okay. At this point, what we can do is we're going to go ahead and actually build out a progress bar. So the way we do it is we say const progress equals new progress bar. And this is from the library documentation. This takes an argument, which is the options, as you can see here. This is an actual object. So in this case, we're going to give it a size of 4, and you can increment that number to make the bar thicker. Okay, the color is going to be the Airbnb color. Now, if you remember earlier, it was actually this color right here. Okay, and then what we're also going to do is give it a class name. So we can actually add our own class names in. I'm going to give this one a Z index of 50, so that way it's always at the top. Remember, Z index is basically how it layers up. And then you can give it a slight delay. I'm going to give it a delay of 100. So that way, you know, even if it was super fast, I still want to show it, right? So I'm going to delay it 100. And that means it actually will be visible for the apparent future, right? Now, how do we go ahead and connect our progress bar to the Next.js router, which handles all of that page routing, right? Smash the thumbs up button and you're going to find out after the water break, right? Let's continue on, guys. It's going so strong. Sign up for the 5-day training, and the first link in the bottom, the first link in the description. Let's keep going, guys. This is awesome. Right. You can add page transition if you want. I'm going to add a progress bar. Remember, you can take this as far as you want. Progress. That's it. Yeah. All right. So what we're going to do now is we have to make a connection to the router. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to import the router from Next router, right? And then we're going to do something interesting here. We have a router.events. Right, and here you can see events actually has this function called on, right? And it's actually seen in IntelliSense. And what we can do is the router, whenever you change route, it actually dispatches an action that Next.js knows about. So what we can do is we can tap into it. The first one that we want to tap into is we want to say route change start. And this is basically when you initially, push the user to a new page, this is what Next.js knows that has fired off. So what I'm going to do is when that happens, I'm going to go ahead and say the progress bar should start. Right? And what this does is it means that the progress bar will start loading at the point that the route just started to change. Right? So this is how we do it. What is happening? Jimmy again with the £20 donation. Hope the contributions help keeping your videos free on YouTube. Not everyone contributes, but everyone can learn, love, and energy to everyone. Jimmy, dude, thank you so much. That is huge. It is people like you that allow me to do this full-time, providing value to the world. So thank you so much. I appreciate anyone that supports this channel, any of the courses that we offer. Everything allows me to continue to deliver this value for free. So you're absolutely incredible, dude. This is possible because of people like you. Thank you so much. As you guys saw, thank you, man. That's huge. Router.events on route start change. So when the route starts to change, I'm going to go ahead and start the progress bar. Okay, cool. So now what I'm also doing, Anikanch, thank you so much. Another donation, 20 rupees. Appreciate it, dude. And we're going to go ahead and say router.events on. And the next one is going to say route change complete. Okay. So we're also going to say when the route change completes, you guessed it, it's going to say something like progress finish. All right. And that means that that's the indication for the finish point. Okay. And the delay is basically the delay between start and finish. Okay. Hey, that's nice. Right, so then we're also going to do it for the route change complete, and we're also going to say for if there was an error for whatever reason, it's going to indicate that the progress bar should finish. Okay, so this is pretty sick. Let's go ahead and hit save. Okay, now how do we go ahead and actually see this working? Well, believe it or not, we've actually gone ahead and implemented it. So let's actually see if it works off the bat right there. Right, I'm going to go ahead and type in London. I'm going to go ahead and do, some dates, and let's go ahead and do this. And let's just see. So I want you guys to pay very close attention to the top of the screen. Okay. As soon as I hit search, it will go ahead and hit trigger a route change start event on Next.js router. That means we should start the progress bar. When it finishes the page transition, it should say finish, which means that the progress bar will finish off. Let's click search. Boom. Look at that, guys. As it's loading, look, as it's loading in pictures, it's literally showing us. Wow, that is incredible. That is absolutely incredible. It's working. Now it is getting a bit stuck there. Wondering why that is. Let's actually have a look at what's happening there. I'm going to go ahead and just double check. Maybe perhaps we've done something slightly different, but that's a strange one. Let's go ahead and try Airbnb. And let's go ahead and check it out now. We've got this slight little kind of weird behavior going on. I'm going to go ahead and dive into that a little bit more right now. I'm just going to check if I've got, some weird delay happening. What I would recommend is do a complete refresh of your application. And let's do New York. Oops, New York. New York. 9th to 11th. Search. Okay. That was okay. I just need to refresh. So I want to let you guys know something. When you use fast refresh, always give your app an actual refresh sometimes, because the fast refresh does like a kind of it's called a module like hot swap kind of a module. So wherever the code change, it tries to like be smart about it. And in this case, it doubled the progress bar. So let's give it a complete demo right now. Okay, let's go back to Airbnb. And if we change that size to like an 8, let's see if it works. Right. Let's go ahead and say London, and let's do something like this. I might actually need to refresh it, but look, the bar's bigger. Nice. Right, looks so sick. Looks like a fast refresh caches. Yeah, so probably gonna, to be honest, you just have to refresh once properly and it fixes it. Okay, that won't happen in production. So there we go. Let's go ahead and do this. So now we're going to give it a complete demo. We've actually gone ahead and actually completed today's build. So let's give it an entire demo right now. All right, we've got the home page, which we had from yesterday's homework. Then we go ahead and say London, or something like that. You can say in this case 9th to 20th. Let's go ahead and say 9 guests to prove that it works. Click search. It triggers off this nice reloader. We've got lazy loaded images that are popping in. We've got the 9th to 20th of August, 4 guests. Also, we've got the placeholder working. And once again, everything is working the way we expect it to. Nice, lazy loaded images, which means it's going to be fast user experience. We've got our nice, beautiful footer there. We've got all these interactive buttons where we make use of Tailwind CSS utility classes. And we actually showed how you can create your own custom utility class. This is sick. This looks absolutely gorgeous. It looks beautiful. It is beautifully responsive. Looks really, really nice. The only thing to go ahead and do, guys, is to actually go ahead tomorrow and add in a juicy map, right? So this is basically what we'll be doing tomorrow. But for today, your homework is to get to this point. Now, once you've done this, how do you deploy it? So I'm going to run through the deployments again, so that way you guys can actually see how to go ahead and push this code to the repo and then go ahead and, get things set up. So from yesterday, you would have seen already how to push code to it, how to set up a repo, push code to it. So I'm going to go ahead and commit the code again today. And what this will actually automatically do is when we commit the code, it will go ahead and actually re-trigger a deployment. So I'm going to show you all of this and how it works right now. Okay, this is sick, honestly. Lightning to my hand says, I hope we name it Juicy Map. Guys, we're also almost at 700 as well. Give us someone give us 18 more likes and we'll smash it. All right, let's carry on. Tino says, wasn't there a day off? Maybe I'm bugging. The day off is after tomorrow, right? After tomorrow, when we've completed the map, then you have a day gap. And then there's going to be the full massive training that I have prepared for you. It's going to be sick. That's where I give you guys an ebook for showing up, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So let's go ahead and deploy this application so that way you guys can get on with your homework and crush it, guys. Let's continue on. So we've got the progress bar, which I hope you guys like that little trick, by the way. It's actually really, really clean. Marty says, thank you for building this. I'm going to start building epic stuff. I'm ready to start building this out. Thank you so much, dude. So let's go ahead and actually commit this code. So we're going to type in get status to see the status of our branch. We can see loads of dirty files, which means that nothing's been added. So to actually go ahead and pop these files to a commit, we're going to say git add all. Get status again. And now you can see everything's green, because what we're saying is we're going to add these files to the next commit. The commit is the one that we're going to go ahead and push to our GitHub repo. So I've already created the repo from yesterday, right? And I actually created it here. So yesterday, you see, we've made a couple of commits and it was the day 1 build. Today, I'm going to recommit day 2 build. Okay. So in this case, I've got all these changes and it's gone green. I'm going to say git commit -m, and I'm going to go ahead and put some, little quotes. And I'm going to say here, day 2 build. And then we hit enter. That says 7 files changed, and it tells you the insertions and deletions, and then they went ahead and done a bunch of cool stuff. At that point, you should see, there's no number there. It's all good. So now we need to push this to the branch. So you see, this was yesterday without pushing. So I'm going to go push these changes to our branch. But before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and show you something, right? I'm going to go to my Versal deployment, and I'm going to go over to the one that I deployed yesterday, which was this one right here, Airbnb YouTube demo. I'm going to see deployments over here. Now you can see that it has day 1 build is the last deployment. Now lots of magic stuff's going to happen here because we connected it to GitHub. If I go ahead and say git push right now, it's going to push the code, which goes ahead and pushes it to GitHub, which means if I refresh here, it says day 2 build. Okay. If I go to my Versal deployment, it automatically detected that I pushed, which means that it will actually go ahead and redeploy the application automatically, or auto magically in this case. It's going to go ahead and deploy it. So that way you can actually go ahead and you don't have to do much work for the redeployment. I would double check the URL and grab the new URL after it's built up. But let's go ahead and click into it. And here you can see it's actually building out the application. And it's going to go ahead and deploy it. Right? Jimmy says, Virtual is such an unreal platform, so much better than Lampstack days. Honestly, it's so sick, man. It's really, really powerful in what you can do with it. And it's really nice for things like Next.js because it provides that middle server that we need when we're creating Next.js applications, as opposed to, when we typically deploy applications. So it says deploying the build outputs. Nice, right? And here you can see, if you look into this, it says server, server-side rendering the search page, whereas the actual normal page was, wait a second, no way! Andre Gant, a $20 donation, boss mode engaged, full speed towards success. Dude, thank you so much, man. You guys get me hyped up. I can't believe the energy again. Monique says this is going to be an all-nighter. Monique, you've been crushing it 2 days in a row. Come on, bring it through with day 3. Let's keep crushing it, guys. It says done with package.json. Awesome stuff, right? Status. Let's click visit. Let's click this out. And again, once again, you're going to get a URL. This is going to be the key to going ahead and, submitting your homework. You're going to need to show me that URL. Let's go ahead and type in a search. London. Okay, good start. Our state that we learned about is taking effect. We go ahead and click some dates, which modifies the start date, the end date, change the number of guests, and let's go ahead and hit search. When I hit search, we should see a loading indicator, and then we should see a server-side rendered search page. Click it. Boom. Beautiful. Everything worked the way we wanted it to work. That, guys, is exactly what I want you guys to do for today. Absolutely keep on crushing it. Keep on doing what you're doing. The homework link in the description is going to go ahead and take you to the homework page. So I'm actually going to grab that right now, and I'm going to see if I can show you where you're going to, what the page you're going to see. So that's actually in the Facebook guides as well. So you're in Facebook guides, you should see all the links that you're going to need for your homework. So I'm going to go ahead and pull it up right now. The homework link is in the description. It's just, you're going to go ahead and see this screen once you go and click that link, and it says, please follow all the links, blah, blah, blah. And then you go ahead and say, go down to day 3 homework submission. And down here, guys, you're going to see, you just pop in your name, email, and the link to that newly deployed site, and boom, it will work. Okay, and if you had any issues, type in partially complete. If you managed to do this and add additional features, fully complete is the way that you want to go. We just hit 700 likes, absolutely crushing it. Papa fam, this has been day 3 of the challenge. As I mentioned before, sign up to day 5. The first link in the description is going to be crucial for you getting that full training that I prepared for you, as well as the free ebook, 60 pages. It's crazy, man. Honestly, I took ages to build out. But tune in tomorrow at the same time to go ahead and build out the remainder of the application, which is essentially where we go ahead and introduce Mapbox at the large screen size, which takes the longitude and latitude for everything that we've done today and goes ahead and actually pops in these clickable, interactive, bouncing map indicators, right? These markers on the map. That's going to be day 4. So guys, we are so close to the end, right? We are so close to the end of this challenge. Just pull through one more day of homework, right? We've got today. You're going to go ahead and build out the search page, the calendar page, all that good stuff. And then we've got tomorrow where you're going to build out the map box. And then after that, we have a nice day break where you guys can breathe, catch up, get ready to go ahead and absorb all the information on day 5 on Sunday, which is going to be absolutely huge. It's going to be so much fun. Smash the thumbs up button if you enjoyed this video. And as always, guys, I'm going to end this out the way that we always do with the Papa Fam anthem. Hope you enjoyed today. Subscribe if you haven't already. Watch my React Basics 101 in the link in the description if you want any refresher on React. It's a 3-hour free course on Skillshare. Go ahead and check it out. And as always, guys, this has been your boy Papa React, and I will see you in day 4 of the Airbnb React.js Next.js challenge. This was sick. Samon says, what way of teaching? Swama says, thanks. Ali says, yo. That was a lot. Vincent says, I learned a lot today. Thank you so much, guys, for turning up. Always a pleasure to teach you. We're going to go ahead and build this in tomorrow's build. Good luck with your homework, and I'll see you tomorrow, Papa Fam. Peace.